Okay, Idis, you are sitting in a tent on the Frystmaer. You've stopped. You had recently raided a village in Gunland. You razed the whole village to the ground, all of you. You destroyed everything. You burnt the houses and the crops. You killed all the animals, everything. This was under the instruction of the Morrigan or the Raven or the Tawn, whatever you want to call her, this mysterious leader that you have. And since then, it's been 3 days. And this is kind of usual. You would do a thing under her instruction, and then there would be a time where she would go into the tent on the ship, and she would stay there until something came to her. And Idis, you're in the tent with her, and there's this acrid smoke, sort of like burning, really, really thick smoke all over the place from the various like mosses and roots and stuff that you're burning in the tent. She's been standing for 2.5 days, this Tawn woman, naked in the tent. And it's hot and awful, and there's so much smoke, and you are kind of like, your vision is spinning. You have had like a brutal headache for the last couple of hours from like being in this tent with her. And you've done this with her before, kind of like guided her through this ritual. You think that she sees something at the end of it, but she hasn't seen anything yet. And she's standing there still, and her like arms are shaking and her legs are shaking. Her teeth are gritted. And she says, "Blood. It has to be blood. A sacrifice. Bring me something living."
I slowly stand, ensuring that I don't fall, and say, "Yes, Raven," and exit the tent looking for some kind of animal that might be around.
Sure. So you can see when you get out of the tent that all along the beach, like the ship is beached, and all along the beach there's like a little camp where the crew have set up their tents and things like that. And you can see the 30 or so members of your crew kind of like relaxing along that beach. You would have a couple of goats, I guess, with you because they're fairly hardy. And you might be able to get one of those onto the ship and bring it to her if you so wished.
I would yell out to the lot on the beach, probably the closest ones. "You there, the Raven requires a goat. Bring it."
And which one of you three is that?
So Brynhild, hearing that, looks at the goat a little mournfully. "I was going to eat that next week." And picks it up and wades through the water until she can set it up on the deck.
Sure. So you can grab the goat, Idis. It's like bleeding a little worriedly. It's not usually picked up, and it sees what happens to other goats that are picked up. And so it's a little bit nervous, but you can bring it into the tent.
I'll whisper into its ear that your life may be shorter this way, but it serves us better, as I'm walking in.
So she's still standing there, her arms shaking pretty violently. She's been holding them out by her sides for 2.5 days at this stage. She's like covered in sweat. And as soon as you go back in, there's like this burning sort of like smoke in your eyes. And you can hand her the goat and she will cut its throat. And like the blood will gather in a bowl, like a clay bowl beneath her. And she'll take a bunch of stuff from around, various roots and herbs and stuff, and throw them in there and like mash them together, and then she'll drink. And her eyes will roll back, and she'll begin like mumbling to herself as she stands there. And it's often been your job to try and understand what she's saying in this particular trance. It's something that you've done a few times. And it usually lasts for quite a while. So while that's happening, we're going to cut outside. You have been sitting, waiting for 2.5 days. For the first day, it's nice. You get to relax for once. The Tawn doesn't tend to run a particularly loose ship. Everything is labor and toil most of the time. But finally, you get a little bit of time to relax. And you're sitting outside on this beach, kind of like chatting and eating and relaxing. But then you can hear the sound of horses approaching. And up on the crest of the hill where the woods begin, you can see that there are 4 men on horseback. One of them has a birch branch in his hand, which suggests that he's here to parley, not to fight. And the normal thing to do would be to have 4 people ride up to meet their 4, or walk up in your case, since you don't have any horses.
Oh, go ahead, Megan.
So Runa would be, I think she would be kind of pacing around, kind of fiddling with different things, whether that be one of the hand axes that she carries, or maybe picking up some sand and dropping it. And upon seeing these 4 men with the branch, she would immediately tense, even though they have the sign of parley. She can't help it, and so she would look to the others that she is most acquainted with for any form of direction, or if they need any volunteers to go up.
There's a moment that passes among the beach where no one's sure who's going and no one knows who should go. There's not a clear hierarchy. It's clear that the Raven is at the top of this hierarchy, and then everyone else. Maybe Ida slightly above the rest for her magical ability, but the rest is vague. And so there's a lot of glances, kind of like, who's going to go?
Helga's going to stand up and walk over towards the 4 men.
Yep.
Brynhild, dripping slightly and hands smelling of goat, goes to join as well.
Runa would also go, kind of bringing up the back a little bit, keeping a bit of a distance, just so that she can keep everyone in her view.
And there's a red-headed girl, Ayla, who's quite young, who goes with you to fill out your 4. And as you approach, you can see that these are lords. Certainly one of them. He's older, salted pepper beard, bald head. He's got this fine chainmail and wears quite a few golden arm rings. Obviously a Jarl. On his left side is the biggest man you've ever seen, you think. He's probably about 7 feet tall. He looks comical on the horse. Enormous. He's got this long, braided blonde hair and a huge greatsword on his back, which is probably something you've never seen before. A sword of that size. Again, dressed like a warrior, definitely not to be trifled with. On the other side of the Jarl is a smaller man with black hair, and he kind of looks at you up and down and gives this lascivious smile. And you can see that he has instead of teeth, just rows of metal in his mouth. Obviously, his teeth had been lost at some stage. And next to him, there's a girl. She's maybe 17 or something like that. You can see that she's been through some fights. She's had her nose broken quite a few times, and she sits kind of sullenly on her horse. And the Jarl says, "I'm Jarl Hengist Ingvarsson. Which one of you has authority to treat with me?"
The Raven is indisposed. You can speak with us.
It seems to me that you have destroyed a village of mine. Where is your leader? There's no men among you?
You should have protected it better. You should have protected your village better.
He looks levelly at you, but the tall man with the blonde hair, he cracks his neck and spits on the ground. He says, "You have raided my lands and left me severely out of pocket. Never mind the many murders that you have committed. Raiding is one thing, but the total destruction of a town is another. Now I'm willing to accept Weregild for this insult. By our count, there are 33 dead, 11 missing, which we presume you have taken as thralls. 3 cows dead, 8 pigs, 4 dogs, 11 chickens. I'm not a miserly man, but you have done a great disservice here. I'm known as a giver of gifts and a breaker of rings, but this wanton destruction cannot stand. The Were Guild works out to 12,000 hack silver.
Brynhild stretches, looks over at Helga, looks over at Runa, looks at the young girl, and then just spits.
The tall blonde man says, "This one's a little mouthy, Lord. Maybe we should take her home and teach her a lesson, like Sigyn here, huh?"
And at that, Runa would kind of, her hand would immediately go to her hand axe, and just kind of hold it there, but not take anything out, no make another move, because she kind of realizes what she's done, and then kind of looks around and slowly lets go of it.
So when can we expect the money?
I'll speak to the Raven and see what she thinks of your demands. I make no promises.
Quick then, be about it, girl.
Oh, no, not right now. As I said, the Raven is indisposed. You'll have to wait.
The man with the black hair, he squints. Lord, there's only 30 of them. Why don't we get the Huskiles and deal with them? There's a moment where they kind of sit on their horses and the horses kind of paw at the ground, unsure. There's definite tension in the air and the animals can sense it. And the Jarl kind of sits back in his chair or in his saddle. I see. I prefer to avoid further bloodshed, but this cannot stand, and I will not wait on the pleasure of this raven, whatever that might be. Hakon, and the big man kind of nods. And he says, "If you'll not pay the Were Guild, I will challenge one of you to holmgang to avenge the fallen. Decide." So holmgang, for those of you who are new to the setting, it's like a ritualistic duel that happens. It's a way to deal with slights and insults and stuff like that. Generally, not to the death, but it's to be decided between the combatants. And he gets off his horse and thunk into the ground. He begins rolling his shoulders and pulls the huge sword from his back and thunk into the ground.
Runa would look to Brynhild.
Brynhild looks over at Runa and says, "Fetch Idis."
She would just give a curt nod and turn and walk back towards the camp.
"What is this? You have no honor?"
"We wish our seer, our seeress, to weigh the matter."
"A witch?" Hakon says quietly, and you can see his fingers tighten around the hilt of his sword in the ground.
Helga stares at the sword in the ground, and she looks up at the man and says, "Is it a fight that you want?" She puts her hand on her sword and tries to stare him down.
You can tell by his look that he is like a professional stare down person. Like that's his job. It's like his job to like be terrifying and be big and to like look at people and make them piss themselves. That's like his bread and butter. And so he like looks at you and in his eyes he sees a woman, which is not a warrior to him. And he like looks you up and down and then just like this shit-eating grin comes across his face. Why don't you try it, little girl?
Helga's gonna grab her sword. She's gonna pull it out. She's gonna step forward. And she's gonna swing right across his chest.
Oh dear.
Okay, go for it. You can roll to hit.
No, I think it's a miss.
Okay. So so it's maybe it's obvious by the way that you're walking that the swing is coming, and he's like looking at you very intently. As the swing comes, he like steps back, and you can see that like the sword just like maybe like hits one of the rings of his mail and like knocks it to the side, but the rest of him steps out of the way. And he says, "That is not wise. I have challenged you to holmgang, which is a legal duel. If you attack me, we will attack you, and then you will all fucking die."
So Runa is running now. I think she could probably hear the almost the swing and the step, and so now she's running towards the camp and towards the ship.
Yep, you'd be able to climb up quickly. You'd have done this lots of times before, and you can like climb in, and you can see this like tent with smoke billowing out of the like the little gap in the middle, and you know that's where Idis is.
Yeah, I know it's usually not the right thing to do to kind of just barge in upon a ceremony, and so I would go up as close as I can and just let out a low whistle, just you know, quietly enough that it wouldn't break any trance or anything, but loud enough so that it could be heard, and with a sense of urgency.
In the tent, the raven has her eyes rolled back in her head, and she's saying, the smith, Ymir's beard," and she's just like muttering all this nonsense that you're trying to decipher, Idis, but you hear this whistle outside.
Has this ever happened before, and would I have been given direction as to whether staying in the tent was more important to her or leaving and dealing with something was?
I think you'd have the impression that like no one would disturb you unless it was urgent.
Okay. Then I would, as quietly as possible so as not to disturb her, stand and at least like poke my head out so that I can engage but not completely disrupt the atmosphere, unless it would be better if I just walked out depending upon the setup.
No, I think you could poke your head out and you'll probably see Runa with like her eyes wide, like there is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. And she would, you know, kind of beckoning you and pointing in the direction of the hill and just kind of like motioning that there are like horses and there's 4 people, and so yeah, but she would be very urgently trying to half kind of make you understand, half trying to drag you out to just see it.
I'll step out and I'll say, "Stay here, listen. Remember everything she says, everything, but don't enter." And like kind of position you like right outside the door so you can try to listen and tell me later as best as possible, like drawing symbols or whatever, if just in case so I don't miss anything important.
Sure.
Okay. And I'll head over.
Yeah, so you can see, as I described, these 4 horsemen. One of them is standing in the sand. He's as tall as the horse, and he's got this like huge kind of dull gray greatsword like buried into the sand. And you can see the tension there, like the strange sort of standing between the 2 groups. And yeah, definitely requires a diplomat, I think.
She'll walk up slowly but purposely, so she knows the situation is dire, but she doesn't want to show that she feels that it's dire, kind of casually playing it off maybe a little bit. Just kind of walks up, holding her cloak around her, and she has this really piercing, intense stare. It may or may not be intimidating, but it's certainly unsettling just by nature, and she's a witch, so they're going to inherently be unsettled by her. And one of my runic abilities is Skaga's Sight, being able to cast detect magic at will. And so when I approach just far enough away where they would be on the outside, I'm going to invoke that so that as I approach, I know whether or not they're carrying any magic items or illusions.
Okay. So you would see that as you approach, I mean, you're dressed as a vulva. You have the look of a seer, and as they kind of look one by one in your direction, they all spit on the ground and make a symbol over their chest. This is to ward off your evil.
She smirks at them with a sly smile, I know you're afraid of me.
Casting, you don't detect anything magical. You can tell that their equipment is of good quality. And there's something about the sword that this man has that's not quite magical, but it's yeah, I don't know you would detect it as magical, but you would feel something from the sword.
Okay. So I'll keep, and that's from the Jarl?
This is from the huge bodyguard of the Jarl.
Ah, okay. So I'll approach slowly, kind of keeping special attention in his general direction, and just say, "What is this that you've disturbed us?"
It is you who have done the disturbing, witch. A village lays razed, countless dead, animals killed, crops burnt, every house destroyed, and for no reason. We demand weregild, or we demand satisfaction through holmgang. You decide.
From death comes life. Your rotten hold was not worth it. We didn't come away with much from it. Don't feel that we owe you much of anything. But the Raven is the one who decides.
Then fucking get her.
The Raven is unavailable at the moment. You may wait if you would like.
The big man with the blonde hair, he looks up at the Jarl and shrugs his shoulders, what am I supposed to do here? And the Jarl looks at him and says, just pick one. And so he grabs the sword and pulls it out and holds it ready. And he rolls a d4 to determine which one of you is going to get targeted.
I really hope that it's me.
Oh dear.
Okay, one is Runa, who's not here, so it's going to be Idis.
Oh my god, that's so funny. So does he make a movement towards me?
Yes, I'll get you guys to roll initiative. Now, it is blasphemous to interfere in a holmgang. Maybe there's not mechanical repercussions, but there's definitely societal repercussions to getting involved in this duel. But then again, you don't want your friend to die, so it's really up to you guys what you want to do.
But she hasn't agreed to it.
No.
Not yet that you've seen. Well, that's terrible. Well, it's not terrible, but it's pretty bad. $11 initiative, by the way.
Okay. I'm going to roll for the rest of them, just in case this kicks off, which I can only assume it will. Okay, let's see what you guys got. Can you roll as well, Leah, for initiative? You don't mind? just in case you get involved. And Megan as well. I don't know if you're going to be leaving your post up there if you see a fight starting, but if you want to, potentially then you should roll as well. So the first person to react is actually Sigyn the Thrall, who's this girl they brought with them, maybe to send a message, who knows. But she knows not to get involved in a holmgang, and so her hand is on the hilt of her sword, but she kind of just looks nervously around, unsure what to do. Hakon Ninefingers, who is the big man with the blonde hair, he is going to look at you, Idis, and he says, "Which, for the crimes of destruction, rape, murder, death, and razing of a village, I challenge you to holmgang to the death. Do you accept?"
To the death? Seems an awful lot for so small a village. I don't accept to the death.
He frowns and grumbles.
But I accept a challenge.
To first blood, then.
First unconscious.
He grins wide at that. Good, then. And he's swinging his sword. First one's going to be a 21 to hit.
Yeah,
oh
yeah, that definitely hits.
Second is higher than that. So he takes this big greatsword. He moves with alarming speed with it, and he swings. The first is not even a swing of the blade. It's the hilt that smashes into your face. It's going to be 10 points of damage for that one. And then he, as you kind of reel back from that, he's going to slash across your chest.
How much was the first one? 10 points, you said?
10, yep.
Okay.
The second is going to be 11.
Okay.
Yep. So he takes those two swings, and then as you kind of reel back from that, he takes a step forward and he's going to headbutt you. With only a 14. Will that hit you?
No.
Okay.
Wait. No, it doesn't actually.
No problem. So he hits you with the hilt of the great sword, slashes across your chest, and he steps forward to try and headbutt you, but you move out of the way deftly. And the fight has begun in earnest. Thorsten Irontooth, who is this man with the hideous metal jaw. He holds his sword tensely and watches around for the rest of you, waiting for anyone else to act. And if they do, he will respond in kind. Idis, it's your turn.
Okay, I'm going to cast Call Lightning, the 4th level. So she kind of smirks back at him and reaches one hand up towards the air and mutters an incantation, likely in a language he can't understand. And this broiling storm cloud starts billing out with darkness, and there's flashes of thunder. And I call the lightning down right behind him, so it's not going to affect me since he's within melee of me. He needs to make a dexterity saving throw.
What's the area of effect?
Each creature within 5 feet of that point.
Okay, sure.
So I would try to position it where I wasn't intentionally affecting someone else, but if they were crowding around behind him, that's kind of their own fault in my opinion.
Okay, no problem. So he ends up with a 9 all up on his save.
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Okay, I'm going to shut another d10 here. Wasn't as prepared as I thought I was. There we are. So since it's the 4th level, it's 40-10. Where the conditions stormy? What's the weather outside like, right, by the way?
It would have been cold and clear, I guess. I wouldn't say stormy. You guys were sitting on the beach and stuff, you know?
Okay, darn. So not 5d10. Just checking.
No.
Ooh, nice. Okay. So that's 12 plus 5 is 17 plus 7 is, oh my gosh, 24. 24 points of lightning damage.
Okay. So the sky begins to darken and lightning cracks out of nowhere. Strikes down at Hakon, who stands, and you can see like it like ripples across his chainmail for a moment, and like the hair on his beard and hair stands on end, and it like ripples across the sword, and you can see that he's like trying to let go of it but can't as the shock like rushes through him. But his eyes like don't close or leave you, and he's just like staring at you with mad hate. Okay, rad. So that was probably an interesting decision. You got Leah, okay. So then, Leah, you can go now. Sorry, Helga, you can go now. Do you know what's happening? I'll explain. So the big man challenged Idis to a duel. She accepted to whoever is knocked out first. He swung for her and hit her a few times, and then she like summoned lightning from the sky to strike him. Everyone else so far on the enemy team has just like watched nervously. They're all holding their weapons, but no one's gotten involved in the duel yet. So does Helga do anything?
Yeah, I'd like to get involved in the duel. Okay, hold on. When I'm looking at them, like, can you describe how they're standing? Like,
sure. So if you imagine like you're on a hill and they were at the top of the hill. He took maybe 5 steps forward to your line. So you were standing in a line, the 4 of you. And so he's standing opposite Idis and fighting her. So he's probably 5 or so, maybe 10 feet from where you are. So you can definitely reach him. But again, it is like really frowned upon to get involved in a duel. Like it's not a problem if you want to do it, but like it is enough reason for them to get involved in their side as well. Because it's like an honor thing, you know? So if you go and jump in, then they will jump in as well, probably.
okay, and this duel, I take it we're like aiming to hurt each other now at this point?
So the duel is between...
Yeah,
it's between Hakon and Idis, and they are trying to knock each other out. Whoever falls unconscious first is the person who loses the duel. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just gonna stand to the side and continue to watch the duel. I don't think she needs my assistance yet.
Okay, no problem. So then, Runa, you're on the boat. You're listening to the Raven, and she's saying, "Ymir's beard, the very north. All the way, 2 giants, Jotun, a smith," and she's just like muttering all this nonsense. But yeah, you can also see definitely that there's a fight, and then you can hear this like thunderclap roll out and lightning strike at the ground.
Yeah, so if Runa wasn't already like really anxious now for it lasting this long upon hearing the thunder strike and the sound of combat, she just can't just sit there and listen to this woman while other people are getting hurt. And so she would kind of run out and point at someone and just let out a whistle at them and then beckon them over. And do I get anyone's attention?
Sure. There's a lot of people at the beach. They're all kind of like looking at the fight, unsure of what the hell's on weapons and stuff, and they're standing, but seeing the other 3 kind of standing there, they put together the duel. So when you whistle, one of them turns around and looks in your direction. Yeah,
and so if this person I would kind of know that could be kind of depended on to listen and to report, I just kind of beckon them over and just kind of like touch their ear and then point to this ear and then touch their ear again and just kind of like push them over. But then I hold them and just kind of point inside and say no and just kind of station them there and just say like, just don't move. I would just listen.
Yeah, she nods.
And yeah, and then I'd run out. on the beach. I know this is on a hill, but is there any like brush or any cover
Yeah, for sure.
around it?
They came out of a tree line. So like basically at the top of this hill from the beach, there's like a tree line that begins in a forest and stuff. They've come from there. So you could easily kind of, if you're trying to get around behind them or hide in the brush, you easily could.
Yeah. I want to try and skirt around them and try and approach them from behind in case anything gets bad. We have kind of this little surprise element.
No problem. Okay. You can make me a stealth if you wish.
Yeah. That's a modified 20.
No problem. Okay. Yep. So I don't think even that your team would see you like quietly creep up the hill and then into the woods. The Jarl has raised an eyebrow and initially when Hakon began battering Idis, but then when the lightning strikes, his horse like I don't know, freaks out basically, stands up on its back legs and like screams, and he like manages to get it back under control. He like makes a sort of symbol over his chest, trying to ward off the evil of this terrible witch. And you can see like consternation on his face. He's not sure what he's supposed to do. Like, there's a witch here. This is not the acceptable way to fight a holmgang. But he also can't break the laws that he like holds dear. So he's just looking pretty upset. Brynhild.
Brynhild makes eye contact with the Jarl and gives him this little kind of smug half smile. You should have picked a warrior. You would feel better, wouldn't you?
So fucking smug.
So smug.
So it goes back up to the top. Sigyn continues looking worried. Her horse takes a few steps back from the battle. It's obviously not a war horse. They haven't given her one that's used to battle. It takes a few steps back and she's trying to get it back under control. And then Hakon springs into action. Still kind of like, occasionally you can see like a of like electricity going across his armor. He's going to try and make a swing for you, Idis. That's a definite hit. It's a 16 plus 7. And that's a crit. Oh boy. Okay, so the first is going to be 14 points of damage. And then the crit is going to be 17 points of damage.
Okay, yeah, she's unconscious then. As long as he did subdual damage, which he was supposed to.
Yes. Well.
Okay.
Well. So it's a critical hit, which in this world is bad news. I'm going to need you to roll me two d6s, please, and tell me what they are individually.
Okay. Man, I was totally going to end him if I survived the second one too. That sucks. 3 and a 2.
Okay, 1, 2. So that's your arm. Okay. Oh boy. Can you roll me a d10?
Yeah. 8.
Okay, so the first strike, it's again with the hilt of the weapon. He smashes it into your face and you take a step back. And as you do so, you like instinctively like raise your hands and the sword comes across and slashes across. 4 of your fingers from your left hand are sliced off. Yep. So you fall unconscious, obviously, from taking the damage. You have lost 4 fingers on that hand. You will not be able to use two-handed weapons, and you're going to need medical attention pretty quickly. So you fall unconscious, and as you're like standing there, like you can see, he can see the color draining from your face, and he just like kicks the body, and it falls into the ground. He puts.
I do have a healer's kit on me for anyone else that would know that.
He puts his sword back into the ground, and he looks at the Jarl. And he says, "Avenged. And get the fuck off my land." So unless you guys are going to continue the fight, we'll be out of combat.
Oh, fine, we're out of combat. I'll pick up Idis.
The big blonde man like climbs back onto his horse and he like wipes the blood from his sword in the sand before putting it onto his back again. Climbs up into the horse and like spits down onto the body of the witch before they turn their horses and leave.
I call after him, next time don't be such a coward. Pick someone who wields a sword.
You want to go, little girl?
You've already had your holmgang.
Then watch your fucking mouth.
I just give him this little mock salute. Bye now.
They leave back towards the Jarl's Hold. You can assume anyone who has a little bit of tactical head on them, but they're coming back with men if you're not gone soon. So Idis is in the ground. The fingers of her left hand kind of like splayed around the beach as the hand bleeds into the sand. There's like thick, almost muck now of blood in the sand as it bleeds very, very quickly.
Someone might want to wrap that hand.
Yeah, Runa would emerge from the...
Go ahead, Runa.
Runa would emerge from the bushes and run over to Idis and kind of look at the other two, be like what happened? Like, but kind of start dragging her and looking at either of you to maybe kind of help her up towards the ship where she can get some attention.
Yeah, I'm gonna help lift her up and carry her.
Yep, I think that Idis is probably the smallest of you, because I think the rest of you, or certainly the two of you, are like barbarians and fighters and stuff. So I think that you could pick her up without too much issue and bring her towards the ship. So unfortunately, Idis is the one who has the know-how of how to heal people and how to stop these wounds. And so I think you're probably like looking down in horror as like the hand just like like spurts blood onto the beach, then into the water, and then onto the deck of the ship. Idis is deathly pale. I'm gonna need a medicine check from somebody.
I'm assuming someone would know since we've been together that I have a healer's kit on me.
For sure. Yep.
I got a 16.
Okay. So you've probably seen enough wounds in your life to understand that if you just like wrap it up real tight and put a lot of pressure on it, she might live. And so you like get a bunch of rags, maybe tear some off yourself and like wrap them up and press it against the wound. So she's stable.
I feel like I would. Yeah, I feel like I'd also know like that she does have this healer's kit on her, and I'm sure there's like I can imagine there's like poultices and stuff in there. I'm not really too sure what they do, so I just like slap a bunch on, hoping that one of them does something, and then wrap it.
Yeah, I think you would have seen Idis before, like reach in and take certain herbs and stuff, and so you're like looking at those, and you're like, it was the purple ones. I remember that, and you just like grab those and like shove them into the wound, and then like wrap them up.
Might want to cauterize the wound.
Brynhild shrugs.
Yeah, so does Runa. She's like, eh.
So at that stage, there's like this billow of smoke, and like emerging naked from the tent is the Tawn woman. There's like steam coming off her skin in the cold air, and you can see that like there's like blood running down from her mouth onto her chin. And she like looks around. Her eyes are like wide and wild. We're going north. Pack everything up quickly. And the people on the beach like nod and begin doing so. And then she like looks at Idis. Oh, for fuck's sake! Bring her in the tent.
Brynhild, as she's going, she just kind of mutters under her breath. She goes, I mean, 4 fingers, that's better than all that silver, right?
Runa would just like nod and just like shrug and just like, eh.
Helga just shrugs. Eh.
So much shrugging. I love it. Everyone's like, yeah, you'll be fine. So the people on the beach begin packing up the camp quickly, bringing the tents and stuff together. They begin to prep the ship for passage. They hang the shields over the side of the ship. They put the serpent's head back onto the top of the ship, the prow, and begin building various little shelters on the ship itself. Blankets to cover some of the rowing benches and things like that, places for you to sleep. The Tawn would say there's a smith in the north, the far north, a horned smith in an ancient forge, and he has crafted such wonders. And among them is a ring of wolves, of ravens, of gold within gold, never ending. And so we are going north to Ymir's Beard.
I assume we're used to somewhat rambling proclamations like this.
Yes, it's something she does a lot. Although Ymir's Beard is a real place, if you wanted to make a history check, any of you, I don't know if that's any of your wheelhouses. I think we have a bunch of blockheads, but...
How long will I be unconscious?
Oh, that's a good question.
And side question, in this setting, would Lesser Restoration be something I could use to either regrow or repair my fingers?
No, you would need regenerate to grow fingers, and that's,
Gotcha.
yeah, that's like god magic, you know?
Yeah.
So with a 10 in your history, Brynhild, you would know a little bit about Ymir's Beard. So Iskloft basically begins on the pole of the world and goes all the way down. And the bit of the Arctic that connects to the top of Iskloft is this like sort of vaguely triangular outcrop of ice and land. And that is Ymir's Beard. It's the very furthest north that anyone has ever gone. So well past the lands of the Iskolfin, even further than that. I mean, they say up there that there's monsters and giants. It's a land of dragons and of wolves. It's a place of myth. No one goes there.
And I'm sure it's really cold.
So cold. And so a couple of hours go by as preparations are made. Eventually, Idit will wake up with her hand sort of at least bound in place. So the rest of it isn't going to fall off. Whether or not an infection happens and you die in a week, who knows? But we probably won't get that far.
Well, I'm going to immediately cast a Cure Wounds on myself.
Sure.
Since I'll get that back when we're done anyway. And, okay, continue, sorry.
Yep. So Idit wakes up and she begins to like incant and like maybe draw some blood, throw some runes, and you can see that like some color comes back into her face. And the preparations are done and you begin to sail. At first you sail, you're on Gunland, which is where you had raided this village and destroyed it. For what purpose, only the Tawn knows. And you sail kind of out of the estuary and into the actual ocean itself, all the way up Gunland, and then eventually up into Iskloft itself. So the first 2 days pass really quickly. You're rowing your way out into the ocean, and then you unfurl the sails, following the coast north. But on the third day, as you're sailing away from the coast of Gunland into open water, there's this huge whale that breaches out of the water, and all of a sudden, up into the air, and then splashes maybe 50 or so feet from the boat. And there's this huge wave of ice cold water that just like drenches over the boat. That's a good sign, a good omen. The whales like that would be associated with Ran, the sea bitch, the queen of the waves. And whales are supposed to be good luck. So that's something. You can see some of the spirits of the crew lifted when they see that. And on the fifth day, the weather changes as you begin to enter the actual north of Iskloft, sailing past the Fittorline, which is the white line where there's always snow. There's a certain point in Iskloft where there's always snow, no matter summer or winter. And you sail past that. And this is where the people from Iskolfin say anything south of that line is soft. and everything north of that line is hard. And you realize quickly that it is hard north of that line. The temperatures drop really quickly to the point where you spend most of your days covered in furs and blankets while you're rowing, just in an attempt to stave off the cold. There's ice in your hair and your breath steams in front of you every time. This is also the traditional area where krakens live, monsters of the deep, supposedly these terrible creatures that pull down ships. That's why no one goes up here. It's supposed to be impossible to sail this far north. But 2 more days go by and no tentacles attack you from beneath the waves. And you huddle for warmth and cover yourselves in thick furs. And you can see up ahead the endless ice flows. There's a spider web going in every direction of these little flows of ice and icebergs, little bits of water between them, a nightmare to navigate. How have you been dealing with this journey so far?
Well, I'm proficient in water vehicles and I have navigator's tools. If that's what you're asking, or if you're asking how we weathered the cold.
Yeah, more like how are you feeling about it, and like what have you been up to on the journey and things like that.
I guess I would have pondered the words that I did hear, gotten whatever other information I could have, and tried to look into it and see more into what it was that she was talking about if I could.
You could give me an arcana, if you have that.
Yes, I do. Well, guys, that's okay. Oh, an actual 20. Could have used that.
Amazing. So you kind of meditate on these thoughts and ideas that she's talking about, and you like think, of the stories that you would have heard when you served as vulva and all this sort of stuff, and the way that she speaks usually. A horned smith, so a horned man, to you, that sounds like a Jotunnet, which are these creatures who were made by the Jotun a long time ago. They're kind of giants, 15 feet tall, horned men, all men, and there's not many of them left. You probably haven't seen one before, actually. I would think they're that rare. So that's probably what that means. An ancient forge, that's vague. But the ring sounds familiar to you, a ring of wolves and ravens, and you think wolves and ravens, that must be Odin, and gold within gold. Odin has a ring, an arm ring called Dropnir, which is like this magical golden arm ring that every 9 days makes 9 more golden arm rings. And it's like this key to infinite wealth. And that's what you think she's talking about there.
All right, sounds great. And then other than that, I would just be assisting as best I could. I'm handy with light and with creating fire and with mending things that are broken. So whatever I would need to do with that and heal.
Sure, yep. So there's no fires in the ship for obvious reasons, although you desperately wish there were. It's so fucking cold on this ship. And no amount of fur and no amount of huddling for warmth makes that cold go away. Your eyes are all constantly tearing, and your nose is running every day.
Yeah, I think Runa, I don't think that she would help necessarily to row because she is very slight and kind of small-ish. So she wouldn't, I think that she would bring everyone down more than anything else. So I feel like she would probably be, they had like lookouts and like crow's nests, right?
So they wouldn't have a crow's nest necessarily. You'd be able to climb up top of the mast occasionally because you're quite sprightly. But the mast isn't really big enough on a long ship for there to be like a structure on top. There's only 30 of you in the ship, and the ship itself is pretty tight with 30 of you on it.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. Okay. So she would just help out. You know, kind of similar to Idis, just kind of helping out with the other things that need to be done. And then I think there's probably some point where they're passing you know, maybe near a village that she knows of in Iskloft. And I think what she would do is she would climb up to the top and just look out there at the homeland that she was taken from and just kind of, you know, make a gesture of solidarity and home towards it, and then just wait until it passes, and then would just resume working and fetching things. And
for sure, you would see when you look at that village, the people of Iskloft are rough as fuck, to put it politely. They are stern and staunch, and they do not give a shit. And seeing a ship is usually bad news. It means that someone is coming to raid you. And so seeing the ship on the coast, you would see like these forms of villagers kind of like rushing together, and they would form like on the beach, like a shield wall, and they would stand there like bashing their weapons against their shields and like singing a battle song waiting for you to approach. But then as you sail by, they would like give taunt and jeers and stuff, calling you cowards. So it would feel just like home.
Yep, she would still just like, you know, make that like solidarity, like, hey, yeah, you know, my people, go, you guys go, or something, you know.
Yep, I think it's probably something you miss down in the soft lands of the south. So you continue sailing into these ice flows. This is a very dangerous part of the journey. The longboat itself is not big enough to like smash its way through or like make a path. So it's very delicate sailing trying to get through here without like tearing the bottom of the ship. And it's something that is a very specific skill. So I'm going to ask you guys to do a skill challenge. It's going to be, you can choose from, so if you have water vehicles, that's perfect. That's a great one. Athletics, history, perception, nature, survival, or Arcana. I'm going to put these in the chat for you. The way this works is I'm going to ask you each to make a check related to one of those skills. You're going to tell me how you're using it to like navigate through this ice flow. And I need you to get 5 successes before you get 3 failures. If you get 3 failures before you get 5 successes, something bad happens. If you make all the successes, then you make it through, basically. So think about those skills, think about which one makes the most sense for your character and how you're using it to try and navigate through these ice flows.
What skill, so if I have proficiency with water vehicles, would I only add my proficiency to a roll, or would there be another, okay.
Yeah, just your proficiency.
So Brynhild is at an oar, and the ship is kind of veering to one side, and she stands up and shoves the oar against the ice to push off to keep them from crashing into it on the starboard side for 20 non-natural.
Okay.
Athletics.
Great. Yep. So you're able to like just barely stop the ship from colliding with an ice flow with your insane strength, and you're able to save some of the oars from being broken. 2 of them are broken anyway. It's such a close call. You can hear like this like snap as 2 of the oars break as they like hit against ice flows, but the rest of them are saved. So that's 1 success.
I think that Runa would, at this point, she would climb up to the top to get a better vantage point of maybe some larger ice flows or things that are in the way. And I kind of have this image, I don't know if this works or not, but I kind of have this image of her taking, you know, a very kind of a drum and just kind of like beating it with, you know, kind of as like directions, like in a rowboat and stuff like that. So that would be like a perception.
Yep, definitely. That's great. So like maybe like those terrible annoying car situations where you reverse and it's like bip, 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 bip. You're like smashing the drum harder as you get close to ice flows.
Yeah. So I got a 22.
Okay, perfect. So you're kind of like clinging onto the top of the mast. Maybe you've like wrapped your legs around it and you're sitting on the cross beam where the sail itself is. And you can spot up ahead suddenly this like very fast moving ice flow, and you like bang the drum as hard as you can, and everyone like pulls back on the oars and like slows the ship enough so that they don't collide. So that's another success.
So I guess then I would be, with my proficiency at the back, handling the, I forget what it's called at the moment, but the steering it, essentially.
Yep.
I'm just kind of listening to the drum beats. I actually, one of the runic things that I took was also Eyes of Heimdall. And so darkness isn't going to affect me when I'm paying attention to their movements and everything on the ship and trying to steer as best I could based on what they're giving me with my water vehicle proficiency. That's a 10 total.
Okay. So you've been doing it for maybe 6 hours at this stage, and you've been doing an admirable job. But these ice flows are endless. And as you kind of like, you know, the cold is so biting, and when you're on the rudder, you cannot really relax and you cannot be totally wrapped up. You have to be alert. And so you're cold and you're shivering and you're shaking, and you hear the drum kind of faintly as your eyes are kind of feeling quite heavy. And it's just a little bit too late. You like pull the rudder in one direction and there's just this sort of like, as the ship like grinds along one of these ice flows for a moment. You can see like 2 of the boards on the bottom of the right hand of the ship like collapse inwards, and some of the women like grab quickly like shields and clothes and stuff it in there to try and stop the water from coming in. So that's one failure.
How big is the break?
It's probably like 3 feet wide.
Darn. Okay, never mind.
Can I try to adjust the sails to catch the wind so it will help us maneuver around the ice?
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Is that something I could do?
Yep. Now it has to be one of these 2 checks. It has to be survival, nature, or history, or arcana, because perception and athletics have been used, and you can't use the same one twice unless you fail it. So you could also use CV.
Okay, so I have to. Okay. I'll go ahead and roll. 15.
Okay, and which skill did you use?
The
Nope. You could ask me there, Leah. I didn't quite hear it. No, I can't hear you. I think you're muted or something. Just throw it in the chat. So 15 is not going to cut it. You're trying to like get the sails to like arrange in the right order, and you like manage to bring them down. And there's a you get them down, and it's going fairly well at one stage, but then there's a sudden gust of wind from below, and it like catches the sail full force, and the ship smashes into one of these ice flows. There's like a loud crunch, and a bunch of the rowers are like knocked forward and fall off their benches, and another breach in the hull at the front of the ship. Now I guess that's supposed to be the prow of the ship, but I don't know nautical terms, so I'm just going to say front, back, right, and left because it's easier. Yeah, there's this like sudden like crash, and again another like hole appears, and people are like panicking, and they're getting bits of wood and like hammering them down as quick as possible as people like pick up buckets and throw water over the side. This icy water, and the second like that people's feet touch that water, you know, you can see them already begin to like shake and breathe really quickly as they're trying to like bail out the water. So that's 2 failures, 2 successes so far.
So Brynhild is watching the ice and trying to see as it kind of flows which way the water stream is going to take the ship. That's a 22 nature to kind of help predict the movements of the ship and call out for the rowers.
Perfect. Yep. So you're having a good look, and you're able to see kind of vaguely the patterns as like the waves rock, the various ice flows, and a couple of occasions you're able to like predict it correctly, and you're able to like avoid a sudden fast moving ice flow. So that's a success.
Yeah, and so at this point, there's a couple of holes, and I would guess that the ship at this point would be much harder to maneuver. And so with Runa on the top, I think that she would kind of plan the best course that would cause the least amount of damage. Like the easiest path, so that there's not a lot of maneuvering, even if that means maybe taking a bit longer.
Sure.
So that would be survival.
Yep, sounds good.
That's a 25.
Excellent. Yep. So you can see like the Tawn is keen to get there as quickly as possible, and so is everyone else because it's fucking freezing. But like taking a moment to think about it, you realize that if you take, if you come out of this this like very tight area and move around it, it might take a couple of hours longer, but it'll be safer. And so you do that, and you're able to like move out of this very tight area of ice. So that's another success. Yep, so Katie or Leah, it's going to be one of you. No pressure, but if you fail, it's bad news.
Phil, it's been a very short one shot, and we all get hyped.
We all die.
Drown.
Okay, so with my ability to detect magic, I'm beginning to feel that as we travel north, that this is some sort of like Jotun cursed water, and I'm using my innate ability to sense magic and my skill in Arcana to try to navigate in a better way than I did by relying on physical, reaching out to my magic more to help me.
Sure.
Fell off the table. Oh my god. Oh, 19.
Total?
Yeah, total.
Okay, so you like sit cross-legged in the tent with the Tawn, and you have like drank this mushroom tea to like help accentuate your abilities, and you're like picturing it all in your mind. You're like looking out onto the various ice flows, and you're like seeing these like ley lines and all this magic swirling around you. This like third sight that you have, and it works for an hour, for 2 hours, but it's exhausting. And at one stage, you lose focus, and out of the water, there's just this sudden this big splash and this big crash, and the ship just like is like dragged along the side of this like sharp piece of ice, and there's a huge hole in the side of the ship. Water begins rushing in as quickly as possible, and alarms are sounded all over the place. People are panicking. You begin to row as quickly as you can to like the biggest ice floe that you can find in the hopes of not drowning in this ice cold water. So
I have a thought. I have to look at a spell. 1 second.
Okay, can I get each of you to make an athletics to try and row as hard as you can? Or in your case, Runa, you can make me a perception to try and find the best route.
27.
27. Okay, good, excellent. Yeah, and 23 is good. So you guys begin to like row.
I got 15.
Okay, deadly. So you guys begin to like row as hard as you can, and it's like so difficult with the ship is so heavy so quickly with all this water inside, and you can feel like the water around your ankles and then around your knees as you're like trying to get the ship somewhere. And you manage to find this like gently sloped ice floe that you can like bring the ship onto. Everyone like leaps off the ship and gets onto the ice floe and like pulls as hard as they can, trying to drag it so it doesn't sink below the waves. It's difficult and exhausting. You'll all take 1 level of exhaustion. And the ship is saved, but barely. You can see that this is a hole that is not going to be easy to fix. You're going to have to like do some real work to get this sorted. Now you are on land, amazingly. This ice floe actually continues and is like solidified onto the actual land itself. But looking into that land, it is barren and white and snowy. You don't see a tree on the horizon. Where you're going to get the wood from is a difficult question to answer.
Do I sense any kind of natural life? Is there like dormant seed even if it's not actually growing? Or I can like get up into where I can try to find dirt and dig around and see if it's just clay or if there's any kind of dormant dead life.
Sure. So if you like were to dig down through the snow, it would like agonize your hands, but eventually you would see that you're on a beach and it's sand. If you went inland a little bit, you could like dig again, and you would find at the bottom of that like grass, although dead and frozen.
Dead until I cast plant growth on it. Yeah. So if I found anything that looked like it would be viable, then I will just choose what seems like, based on what I could find, I guess, a viable 100-foot radius. Maybe if I found some, like, something that looked like it might be trees, or at the very least some kind of food, just something, anything I could try to find. And I would pick that 100-foot radius around what looked most promising, and everything becomes thick and overgrown, and it causes accelerated growth.
Okay. So you and the Tawn together like go through this ritual to try and begin to grow something, anything. And at the end of it, you can see that there are like buds shooting out of the snow here and there, but there's still, more than 2 feet of snow up here, basically covering the whole place. And you can see some of these buds and stuff growing up, although no trees. There's no seeds here for trees even. Grass manages to just about hang on, but this is fairly barren. There's a suggestion made that they could like take apart their shields and like maybe try and patch the ship up that way. And there is enough like from the plants that have grown in terms of berries and stuff that you could eat something from your magic, but no actual trees, unfortunately. So there's a real sort of sense of despondency and helplessness. You're like stuck up here, most of you with wet feet, now walking in snow. And there's nothing that you can see. There's a mountain range a couple of days away by the looks of it. And the Tawn gathers you for her most valuable and valued servants. And she says, the Horned One and the Sacred Forge in the mountains. That's where we go. That's where we find them. There will be enough there, enough magic, enough gold to get us home.
Can I check on the ship for like boxes or barrels to take apart to maybe start a fire and kind of bring up everyone's spirits a little bit? Because I know everyone's cold as fuck right now.
Yes, definitely. It's a good idea. So you would find, there would be barrels of drinking water, but you need that. There would be barrels of like salted fish, and you need that. But you definitely like take apart 1 or 2 shields and take like the planks from that, enough to start a fire. It's a bit of work, but it's something at least. And the 30 of you crowd around this little fire, like warming your hands.
Before you do that, I don't know if this will help, but I would clear out a space using a wall of fire, far away. And use a ring of it to try to like rush the fire inward and melt as much snow, and have kind of like a less snowy and drier place to kind of rest before we actually create the fire.
So there's this huge and this massive cloud of steam that like comes up from the quickly melting snow. There's like a thick fog that comes over the place, but there is sort of actually some dry land and burnt grass underneath, and burnt sand, where you can put the fire and stand around and try and enjoy some of that heat, warming your hands and feet as best as you can.
And I don't know if I could prevent us from having to take apart every single shield and barrel to try to repair the ship. By mending can repair up to a foot. So if we strategically position things where I basically am like healing the empty spots where we don't have to lose every single shield, then I'll try to do that as well.
Sure. So they begin taking apart shields and stuff like that. And it's not going to be all of them. Maybe 5 or 6 shields that they need to take apart. And with their help, they begin to like work on that. But it's going to be the work of days as opposed to the work of hours. And so the Tawn urges you to come with her and go and find this place while they work on the ship.
Raven, may I rest for 30 minutes or so?
She like gives you this look, like a sneer.
You know I am of no help to you unless I have my power back.
Fine.
Then I take a short rest to regain myself up.
So you're going to take a short rest. We're going to take a quick break at this stage before we begin walking through the tundra and suffer immeasurably. I hope you've enjoyed this first half of the game. It's only going to get worse. I'll talk to you guys in a second. I am back. So those of you watching, I hope you're enjoying this. I certainly am. It's my idea of a nightmare, being stuck in the fucking tundra in the middle of nowhere, but I really anticipated that duel being between him and another warrior and not between the wizard.
Yeah, and it's my fault because I totally forgot about the ward that I could have used to impose disadvantage to survive that critical.
Right.
Because my next plan was to like Eldritch Blast and then use my bonus action to call lightning, and so like I really hope that he wouldn't have survived 8 more D10. I was just really hoping. But at the same time, you can't do subdual damage with a spell, so probably would have killed him.
Yeah, that was a pretty miserable crit. It could have been worse. You rolled a 2, and a 6 is like close to death. So,
ooh. Well, yeah. Missing some fingers will be fine for now.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to feel them. It's so cold right now anyway.
Right, exactly. So just let me know when you're back, guys.
I'm back.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Can you hear me all right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sorry, I was having a headset issues earlier. I apologize.
It's all good. It happens.
I thought you just really didn't want to make the check, and I was like, don't make me do this. I am not a skilled person. Oh, God, just make me do it. Okay, we're going to die. I can rain down death upon people, but I'm really just not good at much of anything else other than being persuasive.
Yeah, this is like so unlike anything I've ever played, so I'm having an awesome time.
Good.
Yeah, I'm having a really good time too. It's really enjoyable.
Good. I mean, it's not for everyone, right? It's like you're not going to feel like a hero, you know. So.
No, not in Iskloft.
I'm waiting for the bloodbaths.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, in Iskloft, you count it as the most gracious of successes if you survive.
Yes, exactly. That's more about like not dying than winning, you know.
Yeah. Megan, I love that you were like, this game isn't hard enough. My character probably had her tongue cut out.
Yeah.
I just had the idea. I'm like, wait, this would be kind of cool. So I don't know. I'm stressed though, so I have my Ben and Jerry's out for comfort.
Yes, that's the reaction I want.
I have whiskey.
Or that. Both are good.
Yep, I will have something sweet coming soon.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, my husband just bought me some coffee.
The repairs are beginning on the ship. You can see the crew like working as hard as they can, trying to get things fixed. They're taking apart shield and they're working with Idis. And then there's a little bit of a break where you guys can kind of like rest and try and recuperate. So with a short rest, you'll still have that level of exhaustion. You don't get a pass for that. Also, sleeping in the snow would be pretty unpleasant, I think. So you manage to get a short rest in, and you can recover some of your health if you've lost any. And then, you begin the journey. The Tawn is like dressed in her black furs. She's got this like raven feather cloak. It's incredibly impressive and very impractical. Feathers fall off it all the time, but they never seem to all fall off. There's always seems to be feathers attached to it at some stage. And so she will lead you out into the tundra, walking towards the mountains. It's far. You can see those mountains in the distance, and it's not going to be an easy walk. There's snow as far as you can see, big drifts of it. And it's snowing pretty heavily at this stage. The wind is cutting right into you as you make your way across.
Could I like cut into the snow and help carve us an easier path by like firebolting ahead of us? It's a cantrip, so it's mundane, and I could do it repeatedly.
Yes, you could. Yep. So every time you do, there's like a poof and a big cloud of steam as you like try and cut a path into the snow in front of you. And you walk for the guts of a day, basically nonstop. The Tawn doesn't seem to get tired. It's something you've noticed about her. Like she spent 3 days in that tent, chanting and mumbling and standing, and it doesn't seem to affect her, the cold or the misery of the situation you're in. But for you, it's a different story. It's exhausting. trying to trudge through, even with the help of the firebolt, trying to trudge through the snow. Constant cold, constant wind that howls, and you feel like you're deaf from this constant whoosh. There's nothing around to break the wind. It's just snow as far as you can see. And so by the end of the first day, I'm going to need each of you to make a Constitution saving throw, please. Oh boy.
I was like, yeah, Constitution saving through. That's my jam. Yes, there's a cat butt.
So you, so Runa and Idis and Brynhild, this is hard going. What did you get, Leah?
24.
Okay, yeah. So you're actually able to deal with it most of the time. It's still exhausting, but you've been through a lot in your life, and this seems to be your wheelhouse. You're able to like manage. You're still breathing heavily. You know, you're still cold. But when you look at the rest of them, you definitely feel like you're dealing with it the best. The rest of you will each get a level of exhaustion from a day of walking and trudging through snow. With no rest in sight, night begins to fall, and the Tawn wants you to keep moving. She says, we cannot stay here. It will die if we stop. We have to just keep going. And so night falls pretty early, you think. There's not a lot of light up here. And as the light falls, maybe an hour or two into it, you begin to hear noises on the wind. More than just wind, you can hear a howling. This like, maybe it's wolves, maybe it's bears, who knows, but it's something.
So with my sorry, I have a kind of a background thing where I can kind of know like features around me.
Okay.
Like terrain and stuff, like the general layout of it. Would I be able to kind of recognize, and I might have to make a roll for this, would I be able to kind of, recognize the land and see if there's anything maybe that we can find shelter?
Okay. Yes. So go ahead and give me a survival roll.
So 16.
Okay. So you're looking around at this like almost featureless expanse. And you can see that it's not looking good. You think that you could probably like dig into the snow, maybe one of these snowbanks, and like maybe at least get a break from the wind. But other than that, it's pretty featureless. Just this like tundra, this like Arctic place that you're in. There's no trees, and even the ground is like unnervingly flat. Just snow everywhere that you look. You think that you could probably like find a big enough, and you do see one, sort of snowdrift that you could hide behind and break some of the wind, but that's probably the best you could hope for.
Okay. So she would kind of look at the others kind of with a worried look on her face, because I think she would kind of know like when it gets dark, like it's only going to get worse. Like it is already a few hours in, but it is just going to get much, much worse. And I think that she would actually kind of go up to the Morgan and just kind of touch her lightly and just kind of look at her and just like with these pleading eyes of like, just let us stop for just a little bit, just to get some rest. Just like looking at her with this pleading and just kind of like, she doesn't like touch her for too long, but just to get her attention.
So when you like touch her shoulder, you can feel that she's warm, which is bizarre. Like you can barely feel your fingers, but she's warm. And she like turns to look at you. Her eyes are like wide, obviously like not bothered by the wind. And she can see your expression, and she like sighs, raises an eyebrow. If we stop, we will die. It's too cold. You're muted, Megan, sorry.
Sorry. I would just kind of shake my head and look at her even more intently, like, if we, and then I point, and then I like point out towards where we're walking, and I like make like a death sign, like saying like, if we go out there, we will die. Like, keep going into the night. And just, I would not break her stare, which is very, I think, very unusual for Runa.
Yeah, and difficult too. She has a very intense stare. Unlike normal people, there's something not natural about the Morrigan. There's something strange about her. But you don't break your gaze. And she like takes a deep breath in and sighs. Fine. Find us somewhere out of the wind.
And I would nod, and I'd kind of look to everyone else and kind of gesture over to the kind of little dune to break a bit of the wind. And I'm also going to attempt to make an igloo.
Okay.
with the hard snow, and just kind of packing it, just making like a bit of a structure kind of built into the dune itself.
I'm going to help her build the igloo.
No problem. So you can make me a survival with advantage then if the two of you are working on it together.
Yeah, so I got a 25 with advantage. So yeah, I'd make sure there's like a little hole in the top to make sure that if we do put a fire in there, that it can be successfully, kind of vented, and kind of dig into the snow a little bit to kind of make the entrance so that there's no wind coming in. So
yep, so you build this little shelter, kind of like a wall around, using the big wall of the snowdrift. It breaks the wind, at least. It's still freezing, but as you say, it's not as bad with the wind gone. You can hear it howling, and occasionally like you'll have to fix it several times during the night because the wind will like pick up and smash a bit off the top, but it's better than nothing. Are you going to light a fire?
Do we have anything to burn?
Do we still hear the animal sounds or the weird screaming in the distance?
Yep.
Would they be able to see the smoke coming out the top?
I don't think you would know that. I guess it depends where they're standing and like, you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, like if I were to walk outside and like based on, you said it's currently like a blizzard and there's wind blowing, right? So
yes,
I would be able to tell at least from close up how quickly the smoke dissipated.
Sure. Yeah. You think that they would see the light if there was a fire? But probably.
An igloo?
Well, I don't think it's like a full around thing, right? It's like a wall that you've built. It's not like a proper igloo. Like I don't think you'd ever seen one of those before. So you wouldn't have the idea. You built like a wall of snow that like almost covers the top and stuff. So it's like breaking the wind and whatnot, like packed snow. If they were walking like in the right place, they would see the light. But I think you would think the smoke is fairly safe.
Okay. Well, I will defer to the group's decision as to whether or not we light a fire.
What are we burning?
I would kind of go around in my pack, and I would pull out anything I had that was wood, which is I have like a spear, a wooden spear that I would, not a wooden, never mind.
I have an explorer's pack which has a tinder box. I'm assuming that means it has a small bit of wood, not just like kindling tinder, but like enough to burn a small fire. I also have 10 torches, apparently.
Well, you could burn the torches.
Yeah, I have an explorer's pack as well, so I would also put in the torches. All but one.
Good call.
Keep a couple. Well, you know that I can create light. The torches aren't, they're more of like a backup. in case I fall.
So you take a bunch of the torches from your pack and like break up the wood and like pile them into the middle. You're able to. It takes you quite a while before finally there's like a spark that holds, and you're able to like get a fire going properly. And it's so nice. It's just the most necessary and amazing fire you've ever been near in your life. You can feel like your fingers again and your toes and your nose and your lips, all these things that have been numb all day, you can like feel them now. And like it's painful at first, but then it's very satisfying. You all like crowd around this little fire, but the Morrigan sits in the entrance, the little gap, looking outward into the blizzard.
Then before we began resting, I would cast Death Ward on myself and on the Raven. It lasts for 8 hours.
Okay.
Brynhild, as she warms herself up, and you see her take off her right boot, and she tries to wiggle her toes, and one of them just doesn't respond, and you can see it's the whole tip of it's black, and she just kind of goes, and puts the boot back on.
So the night goes slowly and miserably. It's very hard to sleep, even with the fire and the heat of it. You know, you're like cuddled up to one side, and then that side is warm, but then your back is freezing. You turn and you warm your back, and then your front is freezing. There's not enough heat. The other effect of the fire, of course, is that it begins to melt the shelter, and you have to keep building that up to try and keep the wind off you and the fire. And so there's not much rest to be had. You can hear these howls all night as well, making it kind of unnerving, very hard to sleep, as you can hear this howling over and over again, all around as well, not just from one direction, but seemingly all over this tundra. There are wolves, and the howling is loud and incessant. And so maybe 4 hours into the night, or into your shelter, there's the quiet voice of the Morrigan. There's something outside.
Stop the fire. That's the first thing she does.
So you kick some snow into the fire and it goes out. Immediately, there's cold. You can hear this like sniffing.
I will try to look around to see if I can see it.
You have like magic vision. Can you see in the dark?
Yeah, I have the Heimdall.
Okay, perfect.
That room, so I can see 120 feet in normal and magical darkness.
So then looking, like coming to the entrance of the burrow, you can see that there are 6 of these creatures, these like long gangly arms. They kind of walk, if you can imagine, like a gorilla, with long arms on the ground. Sort of like this pale, hairy, although not fully furry creature, with these long snouts, canine faces, as they kind of like prowl through. And you can see like one of them has its face in the snow, sniffing.
What kind of formation are they in? Are they all within 20 feet of each other?
No, definitely not. They're like staggered all over the place. The closest one is the one that you can see who's like sniffing the ground, and the next one is maybe 20 feet from him or it. And they're all kind of spread around. You can see they're like prowling around quietly, sort of like occasionally like giving out a whimper or like some sort of canine communication.
Then we'll wait until it seems like they notice us, or until the Raven gives me a command. And if I see one of them notice and give chase and alert the others, then in front of that one, I'll cast Wall of Fire. So I'm holding an action if I can.
Okay, yep. So they, this one in the front is like, it's got its head in the snow, and it like lifts it up and it looks around, obviously trying to peer through the darkness. And you can see for a second its eyes like land on the igloo, and then like look away again, and then it like takes a few steps forward in the snow. And it begins like barking and snarling, and the others start to move.
Are they heading towards us?
Yes.
How far away is the closest one?
Closest one is probably 60 feet from the entrance to your little igloo.
Perfect. I cast a 60-foot long wall of fire. And I'll make it to where it blocks all of their sight from us because it's opaque. And maybe we'll be able to get away. Or whatever we all decide to do.
Okay, so like lengthways, right? So that they can't see in that direction.
Yeah, it's a 60-foot wall. It's so that I could, if they're not more than 60 feet from each other, complete like an opaque wall. Yes. So not only will the one in front take damage, and then anything within 10 feet will also take damage when it bursts out from it, but they can't see through it for 60 feet.
Okay, no problem. So there's a sudden muttered chanting, and then this massive wall of fire illuminates the darkness, and you can hear this like whimper of pain. What kind of damage does it take, and does it make a save?
Dex save.
Okay, it gets a 15.
That is my spell save, so he saves. Okay, so 12, 25, 28. Half, I guess, is 14 points of damage.
Okay.
On the side of the wall selected when you cast it, deals 5d8 fire damage to each creature that ends its turn within 10 feet of it. So if any of them end up ending their turn within 10 feet of it, on that side, obviously not on our side, then let me know and then I'll roll the damage again.
Okay, no problem. So at this stage, let's roll initiative.
You said there's 6 of them, right?
6, yes.
Jeez.
So this wall of fire like erupts, and it like lights up the night sky, and you can see just the fire. It probably blinds your eyes a little bit because, I mean, I guess you were looking at a fire already, so it wouldn't be too bad. But you can see, like, hear this like screaming sort of like whimper from the one that was standing right by it, and you could hear this like excited sort of like barking and snarling as they communicate with each other on the side of the wall that you cannot see. Ruda.
So are they all on the other side of the wall of fire? Sorry?
Yes. I don't think you'd be able to see the rest. They were already quite far out, and now the fire has like it's blocking them from seeing you, but also you from seeing them.
Right. So I think that Runa would take out her axe and just kind of, ready in action for if one of whatever her companions decide to do, whether that's run or fight, she would ready an action to do that, either to use her action to run or to make an attack with the axe. Can I do that?
Yep, no problem.
Okay.
So you're just like ready, waiting, looking out into the fire and seeing what happens. You can hear like this of like footsteps loping in the snow. And I guess you would see, Idis, that one of them is moving around the wall rather than going through it. And you would see like just on the extreme edge of the wall, this one of these creatures, it's got like this like matted fur and like it's very patchy all over it. And like runs just to the edge of the wall, doesn't get any further, and it's like skidding to a halt with the intention of running towards you next turn. Helga.
I'm gonna go rage and run into the closest one to me, pulling out my sword and just slashing any part that I can hit.
Okay. Idis, does the wall of fire only work in one direction, yeah? It's only in the direction you want it to be, or?
Yeah, that's what I was just going to ask. It basically shot out away from us, so if any part of him is on the other side of the wall, then he would be in that's where the fire is radiating.
Okay, but if, like, for example, if Helga runs to him, this side of the wall is not dangerous, right? It doesn't burn.
This side of the wall is not dangerous.
Okay, yep. So then
So it
Helga,
says, one side of the wall is selected by you when you cast a spell. Deals 5d8 fire damage to each creature that ends its turn within 10 feet of that side or inside the wall.
okay,
It
no
takes
problem.
the damage when it enters the wall as well.
Yep. So he skirted all the way around, which is why he's not on you. He went basically all the way around the wall rather than going through it. But you can run towards him, Helga, and you can get there. It's like there's a stench coming off him as well, this like sort of rotten, matted sort of smell. And it's got these like beady sort of eyes that looks at you like, and you can make your attacks.
Yeah, and if she's attacking, that would also trigger my attack.
Okay, I got a 20, and I went ahead and just slashed like right across like the general chest area.
Yep, no problem. That hits it. What's your damage?
Does a 14 hit?
It does not.
Okay.
12.
Okay, nice. You have another attack?
Attack again?
So, are you a barbarian?
Yeah, berserker.
Yep, so you should have two, actually three if you're a berserker.
Awesome. I'm gonna go ahead and take my sword and plunge it into its side.
Okay, nice.
$18.
That hits.
$7.
Okay, nice. So two big slashes cut into this thing, and it lets out these like yelps of pain, like a kicked dog. But then it like looks upon you and snarls, ready to strike back. That was Helga. Okay. So the one who was on the other side of the wall, you see it just like jump through the wall. I guess it takes damage again, but it jumps through now on fire and rushes towards the line where you are, Idis. It's got eyes only for you. As is the case with most things in Iskloft when they see a witch.
Probably. I don't think it takes the damage again. It says the creature takes the same damage when it enters the wall for the first time on a turn or ends its turn there. So I think him jumping out of it is just him jumping out of it.
Okay, no problem. So he jumps through and like bounds towards you. and is going to slash out at you with its claws and bite.
Which one looks nastier?
The bite for sure. It's got like this slavering, hideous jaw.
Yeah, I'm going to Sacred Ward against the bite then for sure.
Okay. So then, what is that?
That's disadvantage on the bite attack.
Okay.
And if he misses me because of this, then I have advantage on my next attack against him.
Okay. He gets a 14 with disadvantage.
Nope.
Okay. Yep. So the bite comes towards you, but your sacred wards protect you. Just like stops an inch from your face. But then the claw swings. Oh my god, that's a crit.
I should have disadvantaged that one. It's okay.
Yep.
That's fine.
Killer. So it's going to be 10 points of damage. Man, you were unlucky today, Katie. That's rough.
I'm unlucky always. You saw my roll.
So I need two d6s from you, please.
Yep. Gonna do that. All right. A 1 and a 6.
Oh, shit. That's bad.
Should I set up 6 and a 1? Does it matter?
Well, a 1 is your head and 6 is the worst.
Oh, good.
Oh,
I'm so glad I cast Death Ward.
Yep, so the claw comes... oh my god, okay. Claw comes and like slashes towards your face, and it like cuts into the left side of your face behind your ear and like pulls, and the ear comes with it. You have disadvantage on attack rolls and ability checks until the end of your next turn. And unless hiding your injury, you suffer a -2 on charisma-related checks where good looks are important.
Well, good thing I wear a cloak all the time.
Yep.
You said unless hiding it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And I have red hair, so if it bleeds, you can't tell anyway.
So there's just like this awful sort of ripping noise, and it just like the claw digs in behind your ear and pulls a big chunk of the ear off. And there's like this spatter of blood, and it snarls at you. Brynhild, it's your turn.
So Brynhild is gonna run up, and she's got her shield in one hand, and she's got this sword that she's taken in one of the raids, and she's gonna aim straight at this big one's neck. Shoots him for a 17 and a 20.
The both hits.
And that's gonna be. Hang on, I'm doing math. 21 damage plus. How much is my rage damage at this level? I did not write that down.
Probably
Shoot.
+3.
Hang on, I've got that somewhere. 5. Ooh. Oh shoot. So what did I say? 21. So 31 damage to him.
Ooh, nice. Okay, that's gonna be half his hit points.
And just mechanically, she's gonna kind of shoulder check him with the shield after doing it and interpose herself between him and Adis.
Okay, nice. Do you want to roll me a d10?
I would love to, Lloyd. Especially if it's not for me. That's the important thing. That's a 1. Is that good or bad?
It's really good. The cut is way worse than it looked. You like smash the sword into like the big sort of like muscle between his neck and his shoulder, and it goes all the way in, and he just like there's a spurt of blood, and he looks like trembles onto his knees and then falls into the ground dead. Brutal. Okay, so that was Brynhild. Scorch, one of the other wolves on the other side, is close enough to the wall. He's going to get close enough to the wall that he's going to be on fire. So I'll need you to make a roll.
Okay, that's 17 plus 5 is 23 plus 4 is 27.
Okay,
Let me check to see if he gets a save on that. No, not when he's within 10 feet or enters it.
Yep, he like chooses to go into it, I think so. 27, yep. You said?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Yep. So you hear this, you hear like boom, boom, him, and then as he like runs into the wall and it like explodes into flame. He comes out the other side and he's like on fire. And he's like looking around for a target. He sees the closest is Helga and runs up behind her and is going to try and attack. So he's got advantage because he is in a pack. The first one is probably going to miss with a 14. Cannot roll for shit. So the highest he gets is a 14 on 2 attacks, Helga, which I think probably misses you both times, is it? Yeah, okay, cool. So he like comes up behind you, but you're like, your armor protects you, and you're able to like, you feel the smash of the first claw on your armor and it doesn't go through, and the second one you like duck out of the way and it swings over your head. Another one comes around that side where you are, Helga. He walks all the way around the wall to not get burnt. This one's a little bit smarter. He looks older. He's got like wider fur. He's only got 1 canine tooth, and he like moves towards you. He's going to try and fight you. He also has advantage because of his pack being around him. That's going to be a, oh my god, these guys. It's going to be a 4. Oh, Jesus. Okay. So you're extremely lucky. This one manages to not get near you as well. It's like slashing at you, even with 2 advantage rolls, cannot get through your armor and your incredibly quick reflexes. So there's 3 of these things around you now, and they're all like slashing like crazy, but they're unable to get near Helga Ironside.
Can I go ahead and attack back?
Not quite yet. It's not your turn yet. Itis.
Okay, so with my ward, I know if they miss, I get advantage on my next attack, but is it specifically against that creature? Do you remember? Otherwise, I can look it up.
Yeah, I think it probably is against that creature.
Makes sense. Okay, so is there a way that are any of the creatures within 10 feet of the wall still? And if so, could I position myself in such a way that my Eldritch Blast might push them back into the wall?
Yeah, so there's 3 of them around Helga, but they're all on the side of the wall that's not burning, you know what I mean? You potentially could push them in there, yeah, I guess.
Okay. So, and you said one of the things was that I had disadvantage on all my attacks until the end of the next round, right?
Yes, yep. So for this round you have disadvantage.
So I'm going to pick the one that looks either the most dead or the most, the one that's closest to the wall that I could try to knock back into it.
Okay, so that's the mangy one for sure. He's taking 2 hits. One.
Okay, I'm going to position myself kind of between, or like on the, put him between me and the wall and take all 3 shots of my Eldritch Blast at him. Okay, well that's a critical fail, and the first one with disadvantage. And, ooh, 21 on the second one. Okay, so he takes 14 points of force damage and is pushed 10 feet back into the wall.
And he takes the fire damage.
Yeah. Okay, it says when it enters. It says when it enters it on a turn, not necessarily its turn. So I imagine that means it does take the fire damage, right?
He's walking into a wall of fire. There's no way he's not going to be burnt.
Okay, I thought that was reasonable, but I wanted to make sure. It says 14, 16, 21, 29 points of fire damage.
Ooh, Jesus.
And I still have. Is he still alive?
It's just barely. He's like screaming in agony as he burns, but he's still alive.
Take him a last shot at him then. Oh, lost the crit. 14. Does 14 hit?
It does not.
Ah, okay.
So I think like it was going to hit, but then it blasts into the wall of fire itself and is absorbed by that magic. But he's just like in the wall. You can see he's like screaming and shrouded in smoke.
And if I have any movement left, then I would just move as far away. But I don't know how much I would. If I do, great. If I don't, I don't.
So the wall is behind you of the drift that you were camping against. You'd have to like walk around that or climb up it if you wanted to run away. You've literally got the back to your wall. You're back to the wall.
Okay, then that's fine.
So you hear this like particularly deep, and around that corner where Helga is. One of these creatures, maybe a foot bigger than the rest, like turns around the corner and it lets out this like thunderous howl. I need each of you to make a Constitution saving throw. Oh, guys, you are not killing it. Oh, yep. Helga's on it. Helga Ironsides is right. What did you say, Taylor? Did you say 15? Yeah, okay. So then Runa and Idis, you will be taking 11 points of thunder damage, and you'll be knocked prone. The other two, you will take 5 points of thunder damage, and you will not be knocked prone.
Can I see this beast?
Yes, for sure.
Okay. Because
You have like evasion, right?
yeah, uncanny dodge.
Right.
Which is when an attack I can see hits me, then I can use my reaction to have the damage.
Sure, go for it.
Okay.
So this huge, obviously the leader of the pack, it's got like white or graying fur anyway. It's covered in scars. Comes around the corner and like roars this terrifying howl, and then it's going to try and eat Helga. So finally a hit. It's going to be a 21, which I assume hits you, Helga. I'm not sure actually. Yep. Okay. And that's a quite. And thank God for that. And then, oh boy, that's a crit. Oh boy. Okay, so the bite is going to do 14 damage, but you'll take half of that because you're raging. The crit is going to be 14, but you'll take half of that because you're raging again. And then I need you to roll me 2 d6s, please.
I got a 6 and a 5.
Okay, so it's going to be your leg. And okay. All right, so so he bites your shoulder first, and then like this huge claw comes and like slams into your thigh. You're gonna need to make me a con save, please.
$11.
Okay, so the claw like slashes into your thigh deep. You're gonna drop your weapon or your shield, whichever one you want. You have to clutch at the wound. Basically, it's so agonizing. And you're gonna have to make a check at the start of each of your turns in order to like act normally instead of like grasping at the wound because it's so agonizing. So that's pretty grim. At least it wasn't death. You gotta look at the bright side. So that was the alpha. The runt, there's this little whimpering and this little shittier version of the rest of them, basically. It's got like totally black fur. It's almost, if it wasn't so horrifying, it would almost be cute. It's very small. It's like the size of like a child. And like runs around the corner to where Helga is, and it's like yipping and yapping. It's going to try and sneak in there and get a smack in. But it does not with the first. And it does not with the second. So I guess it's probably terrified of the alpha and the way the alpha is dominating the situation, and this like little runt is just like yipping and yapping. It's trying to get in at Helga, but she's totally surrounded and it can't get a strike in. And that is the runt's turn. The Morrigan, who has been sitting cross-legged at the entrance to this igloo that you've built, stands and looks over in the direction of the various wolves, and she like draws her long sword and begins walking in that direction. She's going to slash out. Okay, so she walks up and inverts her sword and like stabs it through the back of the runt's head, and it dies immediately. She like kicks it off the blade, and then she stands there next to Helga. Okay, Runa, back to you.
So how far away is the closest creature to me?
Not that far. Within walking distance anyway, 30.
Okay. So I immediately am going to pull out my my short bow and take aim at the closest one that I can see and try to hit it.
Okay, perfect. Go for it.
25.
Definitely.
And that will be 8.
Okay. I think you can get sneak attack, right? Because it's engaged with one of your allies.
Yeah, I was a bit confused. No, I don't think I can because I have to be within 5 feet of it or have advantage on the attack roll itself.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay. Yep. I'm not sure if that's exactly how it works in normal D&D, so I got to check that up. I'm not too sure. But that's what it says, so that's what we'll play with today. So you manage to shoot the arrow. It catches this scorched one in the back. Lets out a whimper. And the mange dies, basically continuing to be on fire. I think if it starts its turn in the fire, Katie, it takes damage, does it?
It says when it enters the wall for first time on its turn or ends its turn there. So if it ended its turn there last time, well, was that the one that I pushed into the fire?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. I think it ends its turn there. So since it's already there, it's not going to take the damage again unless it ends its turn there.
That doesn't make any sense to me, but that's what it says.
If you wanted to take the damage again, then that is,
I don't see how it couldn't. You know what I mean? Like if you're on, yeah, it's dead. Like I don't understand how you could not.
I think that's for balance in D&D where magic is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this game's a little different, so I'm totally fine. You want me to roll for it, or?
It's got a hit point left, so it's definitely dead.
Okay.
So it like whimpers and it tries to move out of the fiery wall, like takes a step out, and it's just like this smoldering ruin, and it falls into the snow, and there's like steam coming from its burning body. Helga, you are surrounded on all sides by horrifying wolf people. It's your turn.
Okay. You said I had to roll.
Yes.
Before.
Yep.
So
can you make me a con save?
Okay. 10.
Shit. Okay, so you're like trying to deal with the situation, but like this claw has like dug deep into your thigh. You almost felt it like smack into the bone of your leg, and so you're gonna have to spend your turn grasping at that. Unfortunately, I think that's what it says.
Okay, so I'll just stand there screaming, holding my leg.
Yeah. So the rest of you see Helga like surrounded by these horrible wolf creatures, and she's screaming in agony, obviously taking some sort of brutal wound. Brynhild, it's your turn.
Brynhild bellows and dashes forward to try and recklessly attack the big one.
Okay, nice.
Oh, that was so close to being a crit. It's a 19 on the die.
Okay, definite hit.
And then I'll just go ahead and roll a second attack while I'm here. 16?
16 hits as well.
Will that hit him for the second one?
Yep.
Okay. So hang on while I do a little bit of math. 10, 10. Okay, so that's going to be 24 damage on him.
Nice. And that's from 2 attacks, right?
Yes. Unfortunately, it's not from 1.
Okay, so 2 big hits. You can see slashing into like the back of this thing and then into the front as it turns to face you. You can smell like this like awful fetid breath of like rotten meat in its mouth. 2 big slashes, and it lets out a snarl. Anything else from you?
I roll back.
Okay, Scorched is in trouble. I feel like Scorched is dead. Nope, he's still up. So this one that had been burnt by running into the wall, he's going to try and now swing for you, Brynhild. The first one's going to be a 19 to hit. The second one's going to be a 14.
No.
Okay. Nope, doesn't work. Okay, it's going to be 13 points of damage as it bites into your left arm.
Round up or down for halves?
I don't know. Up, I guess. I don't know. Which is worse? That one.
Up is worse.
Okay, then up. I'm good with words, not with numbers. That's my deal. So it bites you and tries to claw you, bites into your left arm, and like is grabbing it and pulling it the way a dog would. One Tooth sees that Helga Ironsides is vulnerable and weak, and so he's going to pounce, try and finish her off. That's going to be a 16 to hit you, Helga. Does that hit?
Yep.
Okay.
Didn't hit my mic.
So the second one's a crit. Oh my god.
Wait, put that die away.
I'm actually going to put it away because the game is going to end and it's going to... You rolled minimal damage on the bite, which is going to be 4 damage to you for the bite, so you'll take 2 because you're raging. With the claw... 17 from the claw, so you'll take half of that, which will be 8. And I need you to make me 2d6 rolls, please.
$12,
What are the individual numbers?
6, and 6.
Okay, so leg and terrible. I have never rolled this many crits as a player in my whole life. I just want to put that out there. Oh my goodness. Okay. So the claw. No, this is grim. It chops into your thigh lengthwise, and there's this big wound in your leg. The claw like goes into the bone of your leg, and he's like struggling to pull it back out. That's how deep it is. He has to take an action to pull his claw out of your leg. You have disadvantage on all actions until the claw is out of your leg, and you have to make a. Oh my god. Okay, we'll get there when you pull the claw out. I don't want to tell you because it's pretty miserable. So there's a claw like lodged into your leg, and you can feel like these like horrible fingers like digging into the bone of your thigh as you fall to the ground. Fuck me dead. All right. So that, that was One Tooth. Idis.
Okay, and I'm prone, correct? Did
yes,
you say
you were
you
knocked.
knocked
Yep.
me over?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. How far away am I from them?
You're 30 feet from the rest.
Well, okay. Can't get to them then. With 15 feet of movement, can I do a similar thing and position myself on the other side of one to blast back into the fire?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, because I did have to spend half of it to get up. And I no longer have disadvantage. So I've got 3 shots. Which one would I be able to blast back into the fire? Well, actually, I don't want to do the one that's still lodged in my ally. So
Okay.
let's do the other one so I don't drag her back into the fire with
Yep. So it's one tooth or scorched. One tooth is the one that's lodged in Helga's leg, so it's got to be scorched then.
Scorched. Okay. Well, that's fair. All right. Let's get scorched. That's a crit.
Okay. Excellent. So roll me your damage and 2d6s.
Okay. 7 doubled is 14 plus charisma is 18. And then is he 10 feet from the fire? So roll the fire damage too. Wait, and then what do I roll after the damage? I'm sorry, say it again.
2d6s to determine what horrible thing you do to him with your crit.
Yeah. And then we'll roll fire damage.
Yeah.
6 and then 4.
So 6 is a leg. Okay. Oh my god. So I wrote these, right? But every time I read them, I'm like, oh no. Like, it's so terrible. So the blast of the force like goes right through its calf, like chips the shin bone and fractures the other bone in the leg. Oh my god, almost cutting it off. So basically he loses a leg. Long story short, you just like blast right through the shin bone, and there's like he like goes to stand on it, but then it's not there anymore, and there's like this like sickening like crack as he like hits the ground. And then he's pushed into the wall of fire.
Yeah. So that's. Do we want to do the damage now or when he ends his turn there?
Go ahead and do it now because I think he'll probably bite it.
Okay. So 16 plus 7 is 23 plus 5 is 28.
He's done. Yep. So there's just like this agonized like as the leg like cracks and smashes, and then he's like blown into the wall of fire, and there's just like and he's gone. Just like you can see like little bits of fur that are like coming out of the wall of fire, and this like awful stench of burning hair. He's like knocked into it.
And I have 2 more shots.
Okay.
So I guess the alpha is the only one left that's not attached to a teammate, correct?
Yes. Yep.
All right. Well, chancing earning the scorn of the alpha. And oh my god, you're not going to believe me. I swear I rolled another natural 20.
Hey, look, I've been doing it all night. I believe you.
This is after all my crit fails earlier and smashing our boat. Okay, so rolled too hard. Lost it. 4 doubled is 8 plus 8 is 4 is 12. So he takes 12 damage initially from the blast.
Yep.
I rolled a 1 and then a 2 for the crit. Of course, it would be the lowest possible thing for the alpha.
Well, 1 is the head, which is usually good.
Oh, good.
Oh, this is terrible. Oh no. So
she's mad. She's really mad right now. So this is fitting.
Yeah. This your Eldritch Blast hits it right in the face. It crunches the cheekbone, and like you can hear it like that. This like sort of gurgling rasp as like the sinuses explode. The face is like opened gruesomely. He's stunned for 3 turns.
Oh. Yes.
Afterwards, he would have to roll an infection, but he's probably going to die before that happens. Yep. So he's just like, and there's like a chunk that's blown out of his face from your magic, and you can see like the eyeball like in the socket as the skin is like blown away, and like the tongue kind of like lolls stupidly out of the side of the jaw that's gone. And he's just like standing there stupidly, somehow still alive, but barely
and he
breathing.
gets knocked 10 feet back. Where does that put him?
So he was on so it would put him 10 feet from Brynhild and Helga, but not into the wall. He was like on the right hand side.
All right, I have 1 more shot. I'm taking it at him.
Oh my goodness.
That's not bad. Not a crit, but 16 plus 7 is ridiculous. Yeah, 23. Okay. Lowest possible damage. That's fine. I'll take it. 1 plus 4 is 5. So he takes 5 points of damage, and he's knocked an additional 10 feet back.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so there's just, I guess, Helga and Brynhild, you would just see like 2 like blasts of magical energy like, smash into this alpha, and he just like stumbles back stupidly, knocked back, and you can see then as he comes to a skid and stop in the snow that like half of his face is no longer there. Right, it's his turn. He is stunned. That's the end of his turn. The Morrigan is going to try and end One Tooth, who is trying to kill poor Helga. Mm-hmm. Need some elevator music while I figure out this.
Then we need Wardruna music.
Yes.
Come on, like.
Yep. Okay, it's going to be a dead wolf. So the Morrigan just like moves forward and almost casually just like slashes into the neck and then into the chest, and the third one like stabs through a gap in the ribs and into the heart, and she kicks it off. It's still attached to your leg, so like you can feel this like awful like as it's like wrist breaks as it's unable to move it out of your leg, and it jitters your leg around, but it's dead at least. So for all intents and purposes, you have 2 turns to all attack the alpha, and you're going to kill it. So you guys want to tell me how you do that?
Can I blast him into the fire?
If you can get there before I cut his head off.
Yeah, I'll let them all like.
Yeah, if you can
hack at
beat
him
my
for a
arrow.
bit. Yeah, they can all hack at him for a bit, and if it looks like he might survive, then she's gonna unload and blast it back into the fire.
Yeah. So there's like this awful brutal scene where you're all just like hammering this creature that's like unable to move. Big gouts of blood cover the snow, and eventually it just like twitches on the ground for a little bit before Helga inverts her sword and puts it through the head, and finally it dies. So you're out of combat. Well done on living.
I'm shocked we all lived.
Me too.
Who looks the worst?
Helga.
Come over and put my hand on your shoulder. You fought well. Cast your wounds. Oh, nice.
I'm gonna try and pull the claw out of her leg.
Okay, can you give me athletics?
Can I give you athletics? Yeah. Watch me fail this.
You
Yeah,
regain 31
26.
hit points.
Oh,
Okay.
nice.
So the 26, you're able to like grab the broken wrist and just like slowly but surely like pull it out of the bone. There's like a disgusting wet popping sound as you like pull it out. As Adis works her magic, I need you to make me a Constitution save with advantage because of the healing. Helga?
If you're speaking, you're muted.
Oh, yeah, sorry. 23.
Okay, that's very good news. So the healing is enough to like solve most of the issues, and you're able to like your tough constitution is enough to like stop the leg from becoming useless. What would have happened if you had failed that is your leg would have become gangrenous and fallen off. But you didn't fail, which is good. And so the leg is still useful, although quite painful.
Slap my leg and just try to walk it off.
So there's like a quiet that comes over this like snowy vista as the fire still burns for a few moments. And you can hear like occasionally like this like agonized like wet gurgling from some of the wolves that you had killed. But that's it for now.
And we're slightly warmer for as long as I feel comfortable holding it up to a minute while this 20-foot tall fire rages at us.
Yep.
Well, not at us, but around us, nearby.
So the Morrigan like cleans her sword on the fur of the alpha and puts it back into the scabbard and walks back over to the igloo and sits back down.
I absolutely go and follow her and take as much rest as I can.
I break off of one of the alpha's tooth, like one of his canine teeth,
For sure.
and take it with me.
Yeah, it's big. It's like a finger.
I'm gonna work on like drilling a hole in that with a little dagger or something and trying to string it on the necklace.
How much longer are we going to stay here and rest?
Are you asking them or the Morgan?
The Morgan, sorry. My raven. My lady. How much longer can we stay? Should we stay?
I would like to move as soon as possible, but it seems that your weakness is keeping us here.
I beg your forgiveness. And I go rest.
So if you want to stay here
Runa
for... sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, Runa would just kind of stay outside, bow still in hand, just kind of looking out a little bit, keeping watch until till the cold becomes too much.
Yeah, you wouldn't hear any more howls for the evening or for the night or the morning. You don't know what time it is. It's always dark up here. But you don't hear any more howling. You think killing that big one probably sent a message and nothing approaches you. So a long rest in this world is a week, so you're probably not going to spend that long here. But you can certainly spend a short rest, which would be, most of the night. So if you wanted to get some health back that way, you could do that.
Before we did our short rest, I would recast Death Ward on myself so that I would use I had a spell slot left, so cast that and then rest.
So you can like huddle back up, light that fire again in the igloo and huddle up and try and get a little bit of rest. You can get a short rest in, so if you want to roll some hit dice to heal, you can do that. And just before it gets bright the next morning, the Morgan will basically stand and start walking, and then it's clear that you are going to follow her. There's no discussion had about it. She's just going. So before we walk further into the tundra, I need to use the little girl's room, so we'll be back in a minute or so if you want to take a quick break. So I am back. To the people watching, thank you very much for watching. I hope you're enjoying it. I saw Chad in here who wants to play in Iskloft. I would dearly love to ruin your life in Iskloft, Chad. Anytime, you tell me when. So Leah, how are you finding how did you find having a claw in your leg?
It was brutal and awesome.
Yeah, these dice, I have this like one particularly large d20, and like this weekend it has rolled so many critical hits, and it didn't used to, but I've just been very lucky recently, it seems. I don't believe in dice superstition, like I don't think that's a thing, but still there's a lot of it.
Oh, that dice has it out for me.
Yep. So like I had planned this werewolf encounter if you guys messed up the ship thing. And then there was a thread earlier that someone posted about fears, and like Taylor was like werewolves. I was like, fuck, really?
But I appreciate your concern, and you're like, so how legit is that fear?
Yeah, I did ask about it, but still.
Yeah, no,
It was
it's
like
still
too late in the day to change it.
no, and I wouldn't have wanted you to. I mean, RPGs are about confronting your fears.
Right.
Wait, no, that's just Iskloft.
Yeah. Confronting them and realizing that you're right to be afraid. That's what it's about.
Why aren't you
And
more afraid of?
Discovering fears you never knew you had until now.
So the crits are bad, obviously, in a one-shot, but in a campaign, like, most of those crits end up with infections. So, like, if you don't heal them properly, you're going to get infected and you could die from that, you know? So you need to, like, if you take a wound like that, go and rest for, like, months, potentially, or definitely weeks. So it's not so bad in a one-shot because it's all kind of, like, condensed into one thing, but, like, it can be really dangerous in a campaign to, like, get a smack like that and then have to retire, basically.
And use the slow healing rules and everything to boot,
Yeah.
so it's what, a hit dice per hour on a long rest?
Yeah, so it's in a short rest. Short rest is supposed to be you can do an hour for a short rest and roll a hit die, or for each hour after that you can roll another hit die. That's a short rest. Long rest is a week, and then you get all your shit back.
Oh, that's good to know. Sorry, I'm still trying to get used to this setting. So how many hit die were we allowed to spend?
So you would have rested for, I guess, 6 hours after the werewolves.
Oh, perfect. Okay, well that's fine then. I have 2 hours of death ward. And do we still have 2 points of exhaustion, or?
Yes, you haven't taken a long rest.
Oh. Good God. Okay.
A long rest that fixes that. Yeah, so you're still pretty knackered. The Morgan takes off the next morning and begins walking. Were you gonna say something, Taylor? Go ahead.
And Brynhild just makes a pointed cough after Morgan has gone maybe 100 feet, and the rest of us have only gone half that because we have 2 levels of exhaustion and our movement is halved.
Yeah, she would stop, wouldn't look back and just wait until you guys caught up, and then she would walk again. Not willing to tolerate this obvious weakness that you were showing. Unacceptable. You walk for the length of that day without resting. You stop a little bit for maybe 20 minutes to eat around 3 hours into your march, and then continue. And you can see the mountains approaching and a valley that the Morgan is walking towards. And by the end of that day, in the evening, you approach this valley, and you kind of cut through 2 mountains, and the wind dies down dramatically, and the temperature rises. And as you kind of like break through, just so exhausted, you can see that there's like this really idyllic lake. The water is not frozen. There's actually steam coming off the top of the water, and there's mountains kind of all around it. You can see like a big fish like leap out of the water for a second and splash back in. There's all these like pines all around the place. Very idyllic looking. But you also see a house, a big house. The door is probably 20 feet to this house, and you can see it from here. It's maybe 300 or 400 feet away. And the house itself is huge. Even the steps leading up to the door look far too big for you to comfortably make. But you can see outside there's like all this smoke, and you can hear already this like ting, ting, ting of a hammer hitting metal. And the Morgan says, "The smith," and starts walking in that direction.
I detect magic.
You go blind. No, there's a lot. As you like detect magic, you can see that all around this forge, there's like a really powerful glow of magic. And there are two forms, one of them in the house, where you can see like the faint outline, and then the one outside the house hammering, who both give off a magical reading as well.
I'm as quietly as I can, not sure if she's wanting to have, some sort of element of surprise, lean into the Maven and say, there are two, one inside and one out. Both possess magic or are magical in nature in some way.
Yes, two, Scapari and Hugmund, the smith and the creator.
I nod and follow her.
So she walks towards his house. There's like a stone path leading up to it. And it's like you're in the south again. It's like warm. You can hear birds singing. I mean, warm considering where you are. It's still cold enough that you need to wear your furs and stuff, but compared to where you were an hour ago, it's a totally different feeling. And you can see now as you approach, you're looking in the distance and it looks like a man hammering away, but as you get closer, he gets bigger and bigger until you realize that this is not a man. He's got this red hair, the color of blood, and these two horns coming from his head. He's probably 15 feet tall. He's got this huge hammer in his right hand. He's like hammering away on a sword, and there are sparks flying as he does so. And as you kind of get within 100 feet, the door opens, and another one, similar to him, this one has black hair, steps out and like begins walking down the stairs and looks in your direction. He's got an axe resting on his shoulder. It's an axe for him, but for you, it would be almost impossible to lift. It's huge. And he calls out, "Welcome. Will you take food?"
Brynhild's stomach growls noisily, but she knows better than to say anything when the raven is here. So she just looks.
Behind the raven, Runa would kind of like subtly nod as much as she can.
Helga says, "Well met. I'll gladly take some food."
The raven turns for a second and looks at you with a raised eyebrow. "Then be welcome as guests. Come." And he like ushers you up the path. And as you kind of like walk, you can walk, but the guy at the forge doesn't look in your direction. He continues working. You can see that there's like sweat dripping from his brow as he like works away. And the scale of the place becomes clear to you as you get close enough to it. Like everything is huge. 15 feet is extremely large. It sounds, reasonable, but it's very, very big. And this this man with a long black beard and two horns, towers over you, and his breathing is like rumbling and loud as he like ushers you towards the entrance. You kind of have to like climb almost up some of the stairs. It's not an easy step to make as you walk into the house. And again, everything is enormous. You feel tiny as you walk in. There's a kitchen table and he like ushers you to sit there, and you can smell there's like bacon cooking. And he like walks over to the stove.
Brynhild ungracefully, awkwardly, like elbows up onto the bench and then climbs up on top of the bench seat to see if she can see what's on the table.
Yeah, there's like bread and like salted butter. There's like mead, all sorts of stuff, all the things that you want and that you've been craving. Hot food, which is just something you haven't had since you like left the beach. And the place is like warm as a fire roaring. And he like brings over this like these big thick slices of bacon and puts them onto a plate. And he like sits at the end of the table. "So, how was your journey?"
I look to the raven to see what she's doing.
So she's staring at this creature. Her eyes are kind of like narrow and she's like staring at him. Seems to be trying to like get a read on him or like try and understand what it is or how it works or how it's so big. But she's not speaking.
Edith just sort of mumbles, "Cold, sir."
And fucking terrible.
He like laughs and like the table shakes, and you can feel it like in your chest, like when you're at a concert and you're next to the speaker, just like this rumbling, like, and he like smashes his fist into the table. Cold, of course. Well, your guests in my home now. Enjoy.
Helga's piling as much food as she can into her face.
It's fucking delicious. Like way tastier than bacon usually is. It's just amazing. It's like glazed in honey and just mouth-wateringly delicious. As you're like taking this slice of bacon, like shoving it into your mouth, just like chewing with your mouth full, with your mouth open. Not a shred of manners between you. And he's got this like smile on his face, like this is what's supposed to happen. So why have you come to our little home?
Is the raven moving to answer, or is she just still studying him?
She's like so still, it looks like she's a statue, not blinking.
You hear you can smith and create great items.
The greatest. And what? His like face kind of like falls a little bit. You here to take them? The raven says, yes, we'll be taking them all.
Runa would give a very alarmed look at first towards the Morgan and then at that everyone else. You know, I think she's used to the frankness, but by seeing the size of these, like, she is just staring wide-eyed.
Some food falls out of Helga's mouth as she kind of stares in shock.
Brynhild inches slightly away from the raven.
Can I, is there a way for me to, like, insight check the Yulton man to see if this is, like, a ruse? If something about his, like, his body posture, his facial expressions, anything indicates to me that this nicety is
For sure.
false in some sort of way? 23.
Okay, so guest rights are one of the traditions that hold this land together. When someone visits you, you give them the best of the things that you have, you entertain them. It's your duty as like the person who lives there, you know, to give a pleasurable time to anyone who visits you. And as the guest, it's your responsibility to like behave yourself and be polite and to like entertain them when they live there and stuff like that. It's a really important part of the culture. And the further north you go, the more seriously people take that. And so you're basically as north as it gets, right? And so you just get the impression that this Jotun believes in guest rights, you know, as a lot of people would.
So at the very least, they're not inherently evil, and they seem like decent enough folk because they're abiding by like the rules of the land, and they're not just attacking on sight. Is kind of what I would gather from that.
Yes. So what you would know about Jotun generally is that they're as varied as people. You know, some of them are reaving monsters, while some of them are just like trying to make a living, or like, you know, so they vary the same way that people do. They're just huge.
I have stuck pretty close to the raven at this point, and I would just torn between the like the rules of hospitality and my allegiance to her, just sort of like expecting almost to be hit in the face by saying, "My lady, we have broken bread."
These things are not people. What rights have they got? They're not people. You had no qualms about murdering that village. And now?
We had not broken bread with them.
Guest
Convenient.
rights are important.
I have come to take the ring, Dropnir, from you, and whatever else I feel like, she says to the Jotnet. These are my sworn warriors, and they will do as I tell them. They have sworn oaths to me, and they will not break them. Give me the things that I ask for, and neither you nor your companion need die.
If you have fields, I can enrich them and trade for these great items. She just kind of adds, like, awkwardly.
The Jotnet has this look on his face of, like, amusement, I think, is what you would call it. A bit of a smile, and he, like, looks at this woman, this Morrigan, for a moment before he looks at you, Idis, and he says, do you know what kind of items that your leader speaks of? No amount of fields can compare. These are relics meant for the gods. You will not have them. You will not have them, he says, and you can feel it again, like rumbling in your chest.
Could you not make more?
So he's angry at this stage, and then as he say that, he actually just like begins laughing. Make more. Humans. My partner slaves away every day at that forge, and he creates wonders the likes of which you cannot even conceive. And you think to take these things fit for the gods, made for the Jotun, and that we should make more? That we should give them into the hands of greedy little creatures like you?
And she just not bows her head, but just kind of puts it down and steps closer to the raven.
Do you have something that is maybe slightly less wondrous?
The least of our works would take your greatest smiths centuries to create. You have no idea what you ask.
Really, no, kind of out of the loop on this. You're sure you don't have something that's, maybe slightly defective?
The ring Dropnir, Morrigan says. That is what we are taking. Odin's arm ring. We are taking it from you.
Is this so I know that the Morgan is kind of, headstrong and very aggressive and but is this like out of touch even for her, or is this very along the lines of what she would totally do?
It's kind of hard to say. Usually she's a brilliant tactician, which is why you have like won every engagement that you've been in, but she's like walked into this house and revealed your position, and now she's like making demands of this thing as if it was nothing. It does seem unusual.
Yeah. So I think that, yeah, Runa would just be extremely confused, and who is sitting closest to me? I think she would probably kind of as quietly just kind of like put her hand on the arm and just cast like a very like worried glance, like this isn't right, something is wrong.
You guys decide who's next to her.
Can I do a persuasion check to see if I can maybe convince him to give it to us?
I mean, you can try, but you think the chances are infinitesimally small.
I'll try anything once.
Runa, you put your hand on Brynhild's arm, and she looks over at you and just kind of is like, oh.
Yeah, no, that didn't happen. I got an 8.
Okay, so what do you say to him?
I look at him and I tell him that I'm a fellow smith and I understand how difficult it can be to part with things that we create. But just keeping them and letting them collect dust, they serve no purpose that way. And we would appreciate it if we could take the item and show it to the world.
Tell me, human, what is the finest thing that you have made?
I made a sword out of star steel.
Do you have it with you?
That's a good question. Do I?
It's up to you.
Yes, I do.
Show me.
I pull it out and hold it up.
He takes it into his hand. It looks like a dagger in his hand. He looks down the length of it, seeing if it's straight, and it is. And then he takes one hand and the other, and then just bends it. Clunk onto the table. Fine work indeed. You have no conception of what you ask. The works of your people cannot compare. Are you going to side with this lunatic who dooms you to death to try and take these things from us?
I look towards the Morgan.
She looks at you, all of you, one by one. You swore oaths to me before your gods. It's no small thing to break an oath, is it, Brynhild?
Well, if you've already done it once.
She gives you this look. You would break your oath again.
You would doom us.
These creatures can be killed. I've done it before.
Perhaps. With our whole force at its strength. Helga can barely walk. The rest of us are exhausted. It's a fool's errand. Runa agrees.
Runa does what she is told. And you, Idis, you have always been loyal to me.
Do I detect? So I'm since I can detect it at will, do I have to actually cast it, or is it kind of like a from my essence or something?
Yeah, I could assume that there's a general sort of awareness, of magic.
Does she seem to be possessed by some form of mind-altering magic, or is this just one of her more particularly harebrained schemes?
So the Morrigan always gives off a sense of magic.
And I would be familiar with it, so
yes.
Does it feel different?
I think to try and notice, you would have to probably make me a check.
Okay, Arcana?
Yeah, please.
16.
Okay. So usually around the Morrigan, there's this I guess if you're seeing it in magical terms, an aura of blackness, of shadow, of darkness. That's always been her thing. You can kind of detect as you look at her closely. It's faint sense of green in there that you don't usually see.
So she's turned to me and she's asking me this question, and I'm just kind of looking into her eyes slightly pleadingly for a moment. And I whisper, oh, not whisper, but nearly, I have followed you into the fires of hell and back again, but you are not yourself right now, and I worry more for you than for us in this moment.
You can see her like jaw clench.
There's no history for dead men or women. There's no tales. You will fall into obscurity. Your name will never be heard if we are killed here today. My life was forfeit before it began. Yours has always meant more.
Have I not been kind to all of you? Have I not brought you from obscurity or from slavery into glory? Have I ever steered you wrong? Have I ever not shared the wealth? And now, when it matters most, you decide to break your oaths and not follow me.
I have broken no oath. But I do not wish for you to die here.
Then join me in defeating these things, she says as she stands and draws a sword.
I reach up and touch her shoulder and cast haste on her.
Oh shit, roll initiative.
Haste is good for her, by the way. I'm not fighting her. She'll know what that is. I would have done it before.
For sure, I know, yeah.
Okay.
I wish I could like memorize this, the looks on all of your faces. It's so great. There's just like this, oh no, what are we gonna do? It's fantastic.
Recorded for
really
posterity.
Yeah, I really struggled with this decision because we do. We go around and we reap and we kill and we murder and we do all these terrible things. So like killing these nice people isn't something that would be out of character for my character. And I perceive her like chaotic goodness as trying to do what's best, but ultimately recognizing that life is hard and following her leader. So I like sat here going, what would she do? Oh God, okay, this is it. This is it. This is where I die.
Well, she just led us through a world of shit and we're all hurt. And this guy just gave us a bunch of food and warmth. And I don't know. I kind of like him better.
Yeah, that's why I
like,
didn't
no,
eat the
fuck
food.
your bacon.
Bacon.
Yeah,
Bacon.
I didn't eat, so I wasn't under any what's the word? Hospitality, bonds of hospitality. I have not broken bread, and neither has she.
Mistake. Okay.
That bacon, though.
Oh my God, what is happening with this list? Jesus. There we go. Okay. So the Morrigan stands. Idis mutters some words under her breath, and you can see the Morrigan begin to like breathe more quickly. And Runa, it's you who's first to react to this situation.
I would ultimately stand by the Morrigan because I owe her my life, and she hasn't, done anything thus far but bring success. And so I would kind of jump from the table and take a few steps back and kind of get my bow ready and aim it at one of the giants.
Yep. So it's Hugmund is the one who's in the room with you, the one with the black hair. Actually, I have pictures of these guys, and I should show you. Where? Here.
Yeah.
Yep. So now fucking around. So Hugmund is the guy with the black mustache. He's sitting at the table with you. You aim your bow. Are you going to fire?
No. I would wait for the Morgan to fire, so I ready in action.
So Hugmund pushes his chair back and stands his entire 15 feet. He like takes the big axe that he has and like holds it ready, but he's not willing to break guest rights. It's not right. You're his guests, and he cannot strike the first blow, so he stands and watches, his eyes looking at the Morgan warily. She leaps across the table and darts towards him and is going to try and cut his head off. Her speed is doubled, that's sick, plus 2 to AC, and an extra attack, Jesus. Additional action each turn. Oh, 1 attack, okay, yeah. Fucking hell. Okay. Okay, so she like runs across the table. She like steps in a bunch of like the nice fancy food with her filthy boots. She like runs across, and even standing on the table, she's not as tall as this Jotun. She like dashes forward with the sword and slashes towards him. The first one catches him on the chin and like cuts deep, and there's this big spout of blood. The second slashes into his shoulder. The third into the other shoulder, but the fourth he like brings up his axe to block her blow and defends against it. Brynhild, your turn.
Sorry, at that point that triggers my action. Does a 23 hit?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, so that's Runa, lets an arrow fly as soon as she sees the Morgan make a attack towards Hugmund and does 9 piercing damage.
Nice. Okay. Now, Brynhild.
So Brynhild pauses for a moment, sees Runa fire the arrow, sees the blood spilling. Gods above, there's just no winning. And she will pull her sword out and go to aid Morgan. And I'm assuming a 22 hits.
Yeah, it does indeed.
All right. He's from a pair of attacks, he'll get 31 damage.
Okay, nice.
As I rage.
So he's like I said on all sides. You can see these like big cuts opening on his skin, and this bright red blood pouring out from them. All of his eyes are locked on the Morrigan. Idis.
Yep. 3 blasts at him. 17 hit.
Nope, 18 is what you're looking for.
Okay, first one goes wide. 14 on the second one. All right, come on now. Nope. 16. Nothing.
Yeah, so they go past him, and you like one of them like smashes this lovely urn that he had up on a shelf, and another one like destroys a cooking pan. This nice man's house that you're ruining.
She feels bad somewhere inside.
Okay, Scapari, you hear this like what from outside, and you hear like the door is like kicked open, and this red-headed giant comes in. As opposed to the axe that he has here, he has a sword, the one that he's just finished forging in his hand. And he is going to run forward. And who is closest? Not the Morrigan. It's probably Runa or Helga or Idis. So I'm going to roll d6 and find out.
I was going to say, I had kind of stayed back, so it probably would be me, but I don't know if he would have seen me first.
So he gets a... Yes, it is you, Idis, unfortunately. So he stomps over towards you. He swings his sword up into the air, and he's going to try and smash you, cut you in half with it. With a 19 on the die, which will certainly hit.
I pose disadvantage.
Okay, yeah, I would have heard you.
Yeah.
Okay, it's an 11 on the die plus 7, which is still going to hit, I think.
Yeah, well, I tried.
Okay. Here comes the pain train.
That sounded like a lot of dice.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
30 points of damage from that attack.
Okay. Does he get a second one?
He does.
Yeah, I'm gonna die.
Is that more than half your hit points?
No, yeah. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
Oh boy. Okay. Can you roll me 2d6s?
Did he crit? Oh,
No,
it's
but
because
you
he took
took
more than
6
half.
of shock, yeah.
First one is a 1. Oops. Second one is a 4.
Okay.
My head again. Why my head? Always my head.
Always your head, yeah. You got to start wearing a helmet. It's like the first piece of kit you should buy. 4. Oh
I assumed that she wouldn't have proficiency for that.
Oh my god, this is so terrible. Okay, so he walks over to you, and he like grabs your shoulder and turns you around, and as he does so, like the sword smashes into the lower half of your face. It's going to slice through your lower jaw, causing the loss of several teeth as well as a portion of your tongue. You need to make me a con save immediately.
Oh god. Uh, 19 plus 1 is a 20, not natural.
Oh my god, you're so lucky. That's what you need.
I imagine so. I was like, this is where I die. Wait.
Real good news for you. Otherwise, you would have fallen unconscious. Okay, you need to make a con save on each of your turns to avoid choking to death on your own blood.
Unless I heal, would that help me?
It would need to be... I don't know, actually. See, these don't include magical healing because, well, it's not supposed to help that much. Someone can make a wisdom check to like stuff your mouth with something so that you don't choke and like bind the wound. Other than that, I would say that if you make the healing check, you can make that save with advantage on your turn.
So would my healer's kit just make it like a... how would that work with it? If my next turn is putting my mouth back together, supposing his second attack doesn't just kill me outright.
Right. So if you don't die, then on your next turn you can like heal yourself and then make the wisdom check with advantage.
Okay, yeah, we'll do that if I don't. Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. So he swings his sword again with the intent of killing you. He rolls a 3. So I guess like you stumble away from him as he like slashes into your mouth and you like stumble back. And the second one you can feel and hear this like ring as the sword cuts through the air. But it's like an inch away from you and you like step back and barely manage to not get smashed by that. So that's going to be it for him. That was Skapari. Helga.
I scream that this is madness, and I look towards the Morgan, and I go to attack her.
Yeah.
I'm gonna rage and come in swinging my sword at her.
Yes, I'm so proud of you.
22.
That hits.
Nice. Where is it? 7. Not much.
7. Okay, still something.
Do I get to attack again, or do
Yep, you do.
Okay. I'm gonna do the same thing again. Just swing my sword at her. Oh no, got a 10.
Okay, yeah. So with your natural quickness from Idis's spell, is that concentration, Idis?
Oh, yeah, it is.
Okay. I don't
You
know
want me
what.
to make another con save?
Yeah, it would be, I guess, 15, right? Half the damage.
15. Yeah. Huh? No, wait, no. Nah, 13. Nah, it falls.
Okay. So you see, that's why you're able to get the first hit in. The Morrigan like begins to slow down. She was moving incredibly quickly, but the second one still, as you like slash the first, she turns to look at you with like death blazing in her eyes, but she managed to dodge the second strike from you. Helga. Okay. So that was Helga. Back to Runa.
I'm gonna shoot Helga.
Oh shit!
Because she is in direct combat with the Morrigan, and I'm kind of angry at her for turning on her. So
Yep.
It gets the better of me, and whoops, wrong button.
You don't have to justify it to me, only to yourself.
Does a 16 hit?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So you're going to take 5 piercing.
Okay, so that's Runa. Hugmund is going to try and murder the Morrigan. Okay, 1, 2. So he hits once. This big axe, he hits her with the butt end right in the jaw. Let's see, please. Okay, so he hits her in the jaw, and she goes flying onto the table and lands on her back in the bacon, smashing some of the mugs and stuff. And then she like rolls and gets back up again. She is going to run back over to Hugmund and try and kill him. Okay. So 2 slashes hit. She's got like, you can see that her jaw is broken from that hit. It's like off to the side a little bit, and she like runs forward and slashes anyway, and connects twice. You can see that Hugmund is bleeding pretty heavily, although he doesn't seem to be feeling much of it. Brynhild.
Brynhild continues her attack on Hugmund. And as she does it, she looks at the Morrigan and she says, I broke my oath for you, and now I break guest rights. Don't make me regret it. One of those is going to miss, but the other one will hit. And so that'll be 12 damage.
Okay, yes. Another slash into Hugmund. Yep. So he's still up for sure. He's just about at half. You can see he's bleeding pretty heavily. That doesn't seem to slow him too much. Idis, make me heal yourself and try to not die.
So if I don't stop, okay, let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Stopping this is something I'm doing as like a bonus action. So I'm basically getting an action and then trying to like stuff some healing crud into my mouth to keep me from choking on the blood, basically.
So if you don't heal yourself and try and do this, you will fall unconscious unless you make a really difficult con save, because there's like your tongue is half cut and you're bleeding into your mouth.
Okay.
So you need to try and heal yourself and make a wisdom save for a medicine check.
All right, I'll go ahead and heal myself then. I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, healing myself just means I'm going to die next turn.
Well, you
But
could
the
also
spell
just
that
try, you could try and make the con save if you like.
No, I won't make it. I was thinking like I was better off just casting Hold Person on the two giants so that they wouldn't be able to move anymore so that I could get away, but that would break concentration as soon as I went unconscious anyway. So if I get the impression that I'm dying, then yeah, I'm going to try to save myself from dying.
It looks that way.
Okay, 7, 11, 14, 19, 22. Oh, could have been worse. 3. And then I'm making a medicine check?
Yeah, with advantage because you healed yourself.
Okay. Ooh, 19 plus 24.
Okay, yep. So you managed to like somehow mumble out the words with half your tongue missing. And you can feel like for a moment it subsides and you like stuff a rag in there and like tie it off in the hopes of holding your jaw in place and stopping yourself from swallowing all the blood. Okay, so Titus Scapari looks upon the witch and he's going to try and kill you.
And with my ward thing, is that one? Never mind, I found it once for short rest. Just kidding, so he can kill me now.
So his first attack is going to be a 14, which I think misses, right?
Oh my god, yeah.
And the second is going to be a 23, which will hit.
Okay, it hits, but it's not a crit, so maybe I'll live.
It's going to be 27 from that attack.
I'm still up.
Excellent. Yep, so this, he hits you like with the pommel of the sword, like right into the forehead. And like you see stars for a moment as you like stumble back from that. And he looks around for a new target, thinking that you're dealt with. Helga.
I'm still going after the Morgan. I scream, those who follow you are dying. Look around you. This is madness. And I'm going to go in and try to stab her in the stomach area.
Excellent.
Oh, no. I got a 1.
Oh, okay, and what about your second attack? So the first one misses, she like parries it to the side.
And slash again. 15.
Yeah, not quite. She's too quick. She's an expert swordsman. And as you try and slash, she like parries the blade to the side again before turning her attention back to Hugmund. Runa.
Runa's going to go up to Helga and try to hit her with one of her hand axes.
Okay.
Nope.
All right. So I guess Helga's armor gets in the way. Hugmund is going to try and kill Morgan. Oh boy. Okay, can somebody roll me 2d6s?
Sure, I'll do it. Oh, just kidding. There we go.
6 and a 1?
Yep.
Okay. On a leg. Oh god. Okay, so here's what happens. Hugmund, with his first strike, punches her in the face, and she like stumbles backwards. And a second, the axe like swings and like smashes into her kneecap. destroying it, knocking her to the ground. She has to make a con save. Oh boy. Okay, so she falls to the ground. You can see her leg is broken at like a hideous angle, and she's like on her back, screaming in agony. And that's what happens there. He like looks around and says to the rest of you, "Your leader is defeated. There's no reason for you to die here." And that's the end of his turn. The Morrigan is going to try and stop screaming in agony. And she gets a 1. So she's on her back and she's just like clutching at the ruin of her knee and screaming and unable to act. Brynhild.
Brynhild was never really on board with this in the first place, and she's really torn all of a sudden. And so she's going to hold. And if by some miracle it seems like Morrigan is okay, she will attack Hugmund again. But otherwise, she's just waiting. Okay.
So you stand at the side next to Hugmund as he like bellows this demand to you. Idis?
Kind of like reeling from this mouth stuffed with gauze, medieval gauze type stuff. I'm going to disengage from the redhead dude.
Yep.
And I'm assuming I could get like under the table, or would that be okay? So they're disengaging. He can't have an attack of opportunity. So I'm not like outright leaving. I'm just getting out of the way and waiting to see what happens.
So you like step back from him and like skitter under the table. You barely have to duck to get underneath it, and you can hide there like the little coward you are.
Oh yeah.
Skapari, seeing that you are gone and presumably dealt with, turns and looks at Hugmund. Maybe his brother, maybe his lover, who knows? They live here together and have for centuries. And he sees that he is near death, and he is not happy about it. He's going to walk over and target the Morrigan, who is prone. So he takes his sword and inverts it, and like the first one into the table. He like pulls the sword out, and the table lifts for a moment, and then back down. The second one hits the Morrigan and goes through her shoulder and through the table. You can see the tip of the sword come through the other side of the table from underneath it. Idis. She lets out this like scream of pain. I wonder, will she live? Yep, more agony. So she lives, and she's like dropped her sword now. And she's like clutching at her shoulder and her leg, just like screaming, begging for the mercy of death, but not receiving it. That's Skapari. Helga.
I'm gonna look over the Morgan and demand that this end now. I don't want to kill her, but I will if this continues. And I look at her, hoping that she'll say, you know, we're gonna call this off.
So she's like lying on her back, and she's just like screaming in agony. And she has this like mental look in her eye, like she's kind of mad. She doesn't respond to your question. Maybe she can't, or maybe she won't. You're not sure which, but she's just like screaming in pain from her broken leg and her pierced shoulder. Although she does seem to be helpless, so it doesn't look like she can do much, but she doesn't respond.
I'm not going to attack her.
Okay. All right. Runa.
How injured is the Morrigan? Like, I know she has a broken leg, but if I were to look at her, even if we got out of this, she probably wouldn't heal very well, if at all. Right? Or
you think that like maybe with Idis's attentions and like some months, she might heal. She will always have a limp, obviously, like her leg is horribly broken. But you think it's possible that she could recover if the giants don't kill her. But you think that that's likely, you know? But there's a chance, you know? There's always a chance.
okay. So she would just kind of stand by the Morrigan and just kind of look at both the giants in the eyes, look back to each of them and ready in action if they do attempt to kill her, to try and strike at them with her hand axe. She's just essentially trying to just defend her leader.
Okay, no problem. So you stand over the body of the Morrigan, trying to protect her. Hugmund looks around at you, all of you, and he says, "Your leader is defeated. You don't need to die here. Drop your weapons. We can discuss this." And he like coughs and some blood comes up. "But if you continue with this course of action, you will die."
Helga's gonna put down her weapon.
Just assume that Ada stays under the table. She doesn't have any weapons
Yeah.
that they can see, so.
Are you staying protectively over her still, Runa?
Yeah, I am. I would not waver in the slightest because I would know that as soon as I would maybe remove myself, they might kill the Morrigan, so I would just stay there resolute, just staring at them.
And what of Brynhild?
Brynhild bends down and sets her blade on the floor and looks at Runa, just kind of shakes her head. It's over. Let it be.
Will you let us take her with us from under the table?
No. She has dragon sickness.
I thought as much.
She will never give up. She will come back again and again. The ring drop near. It has an effect on those of weak minds.
She has what?
Dragon sickness.
Thirst for gold above all else. I sensed it in her when we walked in, so I begged her to leave.
If she takes this ring from us, she will turn slowly over centuries into a worm, a serpent. Her lust for gold will never cease. If we let her go, she will come back again and again.
Runa.
She'd be looking with wild eyes at each of you, not knowing and can she see Idis? Probably not, I think.
There's probably like a little splinter in the table where you could like maybe get a glimpse of her red cloak, but she's under the table, so probably not her face or anything.
And I do have to add that any speaking that I'm doing sounds absolutely awful. So I have like rags bound out over the bottom portion of my jaw and part of my tongue is missing. So I sound terrible if you can understand me.
So I would look to the giants and just in like pleading eyes, just like shake my head and look to everyone. But I would slowly put down my hand axe.
The two of them stand at the end of the table and they watch. Cannot be easy to break an oath. The gods don't like it. But you've done a good service here. Stopped a monster from spawning. I'm going to kill her now. If one of you wants to do it instead, do it quickly.
I think that Runa would immediately do it only because she did make an oath to protect the Morrigan. And to her, if she has the sickness that, everyone says she does, this would be protection. At least she's trying to think about that in her mind and, kind of praise to the gods that they would see favor in this. And she would slit her throat.
So you draw the blade across her throat and like her eyes widen. She looks at you. And they stay wide as the blood drains from her throat and she dies.
I can't keep eye contact. As soon as she looks at me, I have to look away like a coward.
Ada steps out from under the table and you can see like tears down the side of her face as she looks up at the dead body of the raven.
I do not know what the customs of your people are in terms of burial. We'll provide whatever you need. As long as you take no further aggressive action towards us.
She deserves a pyre. Burial pyre. Little burial pile.
Yep, so you can get wood from the trees around and create a pyre and lay the Morrigan's body on top. And it burns by the lake. Watch her body wither away with her sword in her grip so she can make it to Valhalla. The Jotun don't attend the funeral. They leave it to you. Maybe it's a private affair. Maybe they don't care. And when you return to them, they've cleaned their kitchen, tried to mop up the blood, tried to fix the various things that you had broken, came into their home and destroyed it. And they're sitting tensely at one end of the table, opposite each other. They're eating. Where will you go now?
We have a ship and a crew elsewhere. If they're not dead from the cold, we've got to find them and return home.
You know that we are here. And that is dangerous.
We also know that even with the entire crew, we would all die should we return.
Perhaps with one crew. What if you came back with 20? 100? With tales of infinite gold?
I look at Hugin. You were here when we came in. You know that we wished that she would leave, and we were bound by our oath to protect her. Our heart was not in this from the beginning. It was only with her.
Then we would have you swear an oath that you'll not reveal this location to others of your kind. In return, we'll give you a gift. As you are guests in our home, he says with this like wry grin.
I'm going to insight check him.
What are you trying to discern?
If I give you a gift, he is anything that, like his body language or his facial expression, he already grinned. If when he says gift, he means some sort of like curse or something like that.
Sure.
What his intent is with this thing.
Yeah.
16.
Okay. So, I mean, you saw how seriously these people took the guest right. Now, you broke that, but they only defended themselves. So you think he's being genuine, that he would give you a gift in the hopes that it would, like, enforce your oath?
Adis nods and says, I have no reason to return here.
They take you outside to the forge. This enormous forge is a huge fire. And you can see all these weapons, wondrous things all over the place set up. And Scapari, the red-haired giant, says, I cannot give you the ring Dropnir. That is Odin's ring. It is not fit for mortals. But I can give you a gift. 3 blades.
She nods her head and says, you have my thanks. We do not deserve them.
It would not do to give 3 of you gifts and not the 4th. And so for you, Helga, we have something special. And so he like points towards the lake, and there's, as if from nowhere, a longship, enormous, like twice the size of the one that you usually sail on. It's got this like dragon's head on the front. It's got a little structure that's so big it's even got a structure, like a sort of like small building on it. He says, this is the Osgelfi. It's your longship. You stuck to the guest rights, and we appreciate that. And the gods smile upon those who keep their oaths.
I look at them and I thank them wholeheartedly. And I look back at the ship and then the others, just kind of in shock.
For the rest of you, we have blades. Durandal, Mimung, and Ivylock. And there's these 3 swords that they hand to you. They work together, and only together. If one of you breaks the oath, they will cease to work. They will fall apart and crumble. And so you will keep each other to this oath.
Brynhild takes one of the blades and hefts it in her hands and gives it kind of a test swing, and knows that this is the finest thing she's ever going to hold.
Yeah, they're just incredible craftsmanship. Lighter, but sharper than anything you've held before. And it seems to perfectly fit your hand. And so they give you these blades, and they wave you off as you get onto this longship and sail away, surviving. And that's probably where we'll end this adventure.
Oh, so this pond actually like feeds out. This isn't just like a boat sitting in a pond and we don't have any way of getting it to the water.
No,
So
yeah,
I pictured it in my
connects
mind.
Yep.
Okay. We
Yep,
survived.
There you go. There's Iskloft. Hope that was fun.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
I was hoping to get Taylor to break another oath, which is all I ever want.
Oh, Lloyd, I had such a hard time even making that character, as you know. But here's to Iskloft. Thanks for running it.
Yeah.
It's a great game.
No problem. I hope you had a good time.
Yeah, that was great. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I'm surprised we all lived.
So am I.
Yes.
Especially with all those crits that someone was rolling.
Stop.
And with
Yeah,
as much as weak little warlocky vulva got attacked, I should have died so many times.
Yeah, I don't know how you survived all of that.
I don't either.
Yep. It's going to be hard to be a warlock with half a tongue, I think.
Yeah, that's gonna be tough. Gonna have to figure out how what are those people that talk to puppets?
Yeah.
Yeah. See if there's some sort of like, almost meta magic feat you can do for subtle spell casting. You don't need to speak.
Yeah, he reskinned them to be more like warlocks than sorcerers though, which changed things a lot. Yeah, you only get 2 spells as a warlock. I was like, oh man, this is why I don't play warlocks. That's okay, I'll give it a shot. Nope, never again. We're good here.
I really loved Runa standing over the body and like really not knowing what to do. Like, because she had like saved you from like a life of hell. It's like a really tough decision. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, I probably should just die fighting everyone, but
I was worried it was gonna turn into like everyone attacking Helga because she's attacking the Morgan.
Oh no, if it descended into chaos and everybody started attacking each other, I was just going to leave. My oath was to the Morgan. You guys are great and all, but nah, this is it. No. She disengages and she runs out the door. Next plan.
So you got like a bunch of the Iskloft like keynotes. You got like a ship on a journey on a ship. You got some cold misery. You got to meet a giant. You know, ticked all the boxes, which is good. People got crit a lot. There were some brutal wounds. Yep. So I'm gonna stop the broadcast. Thank you to those people who watched. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all next time.